You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for a new season of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Yes, it is season 7 of Ernestly Speaking. And what did I miss? My goodness. Seems like it was so many things happening since we, left. And I've just been sitting back, taking notes, being like, yep, we're definitely going to talk about this on the show. As you can imagine, I have had a very adventurous, shocking, oh my goodness, did that really happen? Break. When we last concluded season 6, it was almost like, Supreme Court decision had just happened. We were on the cusp of that, which basically we found out, of course, that the Supreme Court has given Trump some immunity and future presidents immunity when it comes to presidential privileges. I mean, not full immunity, but there is some ambiguity that would suggest that the president has some level of immunity when it comes to executing his role as president, which we'll see how that will play out, with the courts and his current cases. But look, at the end of the day, I've come to the conclusion on that situation, because so much other stuff has happened, as you all know, that at the end of the day, this is all going to fall on voters. But more on that later. As we all know, there has been an assassination attempt on the former president, which has opened up the door to a lot of other extreme things. But I want to be very clear on my podcast that we don't condone, violence. Regardless of if you like a person or not, how you feel about them, look. We don't beat people with bullets. We beat people with votes. We beat people with policy. We beat people with facts. We beat people with the truth. And that's my statement on it. We don't need to do this on either side of the issue. Clearly, we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the podcast. But I do want to just state that, because a lot of things have been already said on the internet, conspiracy theorists, all that stuff. And look, in this day and age, I can understand. Research shows us that when there is already a culture of misinformation and public distrust that is often stroked by individuals who might be the victim of a situation, it comes back in a very bad way. If you're somebody who campaigned on conspiracy theories and misinformation, and then something unfortunate happens to you, people don't stop and empathize or sympathize or have a moment, because, it's already been, embedded. And so, a lot has been said already. I'm going to talk more about it later in the show, but I just wanted to set the parameters that, we don't need to beat people with bullets. We beat people with votes. Okay. Just because people have incited insurrections and have incited violence in other areas don't mean we've become the very evil that we are prescribed and seeking to eradicate. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there on my show on where I stand on that. But moving along, it has been a very adventurous 2 weeks, as you all know. We started off celebrating the 4th of Jamarcus, which was another epic birthday for my bestie. If you have not listened to his new music, I highly recommend it. I talk a lot about these other artists that have mediocre music, and we're going to talk about more mediocre flop music later in the podcast. But, people say I don't encourage or promote enough good music. Because to be real with you all, it is not, it's been, first of all, I do promote good music. Y'all just don't like my taste. No, I'm joking. It is hard to find good original music out there. But, I just often assume that everybody listens to Jamarcus as much as I do. But he has that new EP out called Solace. That is Solace. It's out now. You can go to his Instagram page at Jamarcus_Henderson on Instagram and check him out on all the major music playing platforms. The music is accessible. You can buy downloads and support financially, or you can offer in streams and listens. But there's good music to listen to. I mean, young music, hip music, dance music, black music, queer music, black queer music, millennial voices and millennial music because it matters. So if you have not, heard the wonderful sounds of Jamarcus Henderson, I highly recommend it, especially with the vibes that we're getting everywhere else. I mean, it's just like the music out here is just, I don't want to digress, but the music out here, y'all, I mean, come on. There's been some good stuff, a little good stuff. You just gotta look for it. But I am going to prescribe and recommend good music every time I go in on any bad music. And there is definitely some bad music, and we'll talk more about that. But there is good music out there. So we celebrated the 4th of Jamarcus multiple times throughout the previous week. For starters, we went to Strange Loves. We had a big, huge little birthday bash at Strange Loves, which is now black owned. A black man who I know very well owns Strange Loves. And this is that really long time bar that's been in Graduate Hospital around 11th Street. Very nice spot, very fun. It's a very cool bar. It's not like lounging, not like that. It's more like, you got the main dive bar, but there's upstairs, downstairs, private booths. You can do your little chill out. It's good happy hour. But what is really impressive is they got a huge upstairs space for events and parties. And and this is the more important part, they have what is that? They have an arcade in the back that has free arcade games. So they have Miss Pac-Man, um, what's the other one they had? Oh, they have Mortal Kombat, The Simpsons, and all of it was free. So you can just go up and play games in the back. And I was thinking, oh, it's been a while, but when I got on that Pac-Man, y'all, I'm sorry, I got so like the old arcade version is very different because I grew up playing it on PlayStation, which with the joysticks, but the arcade version with that it's frustrating but fun, more exciting because you have to move that thing while they're chasing you, the little ghosts or whatever are chasing you, and you just got to keep eating your way through. And I feel like if I had the PlayStation video game, it'll be just much faster because it's digitalized. But the old arcade version is high intense because you really got to move that arm to move through to eat all the little dots or whatever. But I got sucked in on it. I really got sucked into it. Like I got into it, like just really playing it intensely for like 30 minutes straight. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, we're gonna go here." I'm like, "Okay," and I just was just into it. Like I had to. Arcade games are addicting. If you really get a good one, you can get stuck in there for hours. I don't know how the Gen Zers, the Gen Xers did it. I don't know how the Gen Xers did it because baby, I would have been, listen, my money at the arcade would have been a new gambling slot because it was fun, but it was free. So, good highlights on the menu. They have like 30 different flavor wings, and we tried about, I want to say 5 or 6 of them, and they were all good. And they're so customary. Like the flavors are great. The wings are really, really good wings. They use these really good organic wings that are like grass fed. So these are not like those pumped up steroids, the real modified chicken that's just, giving all that extras, stuff. These are natural chickens. The wings are not wingdings, but they're not like the big old plump wings. It's like regular good old chicken wings. And I mean, yeah, like they're just great. They were really good. And the flavors and the sauces were awesome and customary. Like you could get different things. You get like garlic parm, and then there was like another parmesan. There was like a buffalo parmesan flavor that I thought was going to be too much, but actually was really good. But they had various flavors, and I was a big fan. And the drinks were really, really good. Like a nice stiff cocktail, not one where you feel like you got to drink 4 or 5 of them, and you don't know, right? Like it doesn't make you drunk, but you drink with the intent to have a little bit of a buzz. You don't just throw them, like I don't know. Everybody drinks differently, but I'm like, I don't drink to get drunk. Those days are over. I mean, those are like the college days when people just was just taking shots, and I don't even do shots anymore. Like I do shots like maybe once or twice a year if on occasion I'm out at a bar or like a VIP situation where the server comes up and they're like, shots on the house, something like that. Or if I'm at someone's party and they want to be flashy with some Patron or something, I might do that. But I am not like a person that goes to a bar and orders a shot because I think that was so much of my college years that I'm just kind of like, mm, I'll do a martini. I'll do a nice clean martini. I'll do a Cosmo. Like I gotta have something. I gotta have a vibe. It just can't just be straight throw it back like that. No more throwing it back for me in the shots department. Um, so yeah. So we had a great time at Strange Loves. It was a complete good time, and it was the Lit Brothers, of course. It was myself, of course. It was the birthday boy Jamarcus. It was Gio, and of course Josh Eats Philly. So we all hung out, had a good time, and congrats to my lit brother Josh on being nominated for Influencer of the Year at the Philly Mag Influencer Awards, which is going to be taking place. I want to say late summer, early fall, but he's nominated. Last year he won Food Influencer of the Year. This time he's going for the big one, and I think he deserves it. I think one thing I would say about him, not that I'm comparing him to the other girls, but I guess I kind of am. Um, Josh's content is dope because one, he has great friends that he hangs out with and great finger models for some of the food. With lovely nails, but not about myself. That's about myself. No, but he does great content because it's original. Um, and what I mean by original is that he has his own aesthetic and he really thinks about the viewer in making the content. Like, what do you want to see? Like, when I see his videos, like, this is what you want to see. Like, he doesn't do like I get annoyed with certain influencers, and I'm not, no shots, no shade, no shade. But when I look at because the way that Josh has an eye for his content is kind of the way that I do, except that he takes it to another level because he does reels, and I'm not giving y'all all them reels and all that on social media, but he makes banks, so he can do the reels. I'll be looking like, y'all, that's too much time, but he's a cinematographer in his own way. This is what he do, right? This is what he do. Like this is his passion. What I love about Josh's content, when it comes to specifically food and all of those things, um, is that he does not, he's very selective about when he inserts himself in his content. So if he's going to a nature, woods, or whatever, you'll see him do a stroll. You'll see him in some aspects. You want to see him enjoying participating in certain aspects. Like if he's promoting walking or whatever, you're going to see him in that way. If he's promoting a trip, you're going to see him traveling, which makes sense and also confirms that it's him because there's a lot of people out here that's just getting things from other sources and places and it's not original, right? He's going to get his stuff. He's going to create it. With his food specifically, and this is one of my personal pet peeves, if you're doing food content, show me the food. I don't care about you eating it. I don't want to see you really spending most of your time eating it. Personally, I want to see the material. Like, I want to see you dip that wing in that sauce. What is it looking like? I need to see the food. Show me the food. Pictures of you eating it in people's face and I don't care. And so I think some of this food, influencer content has gotten very me online with certain folks. And as the consumer, I don't care. Like I want to see, because if you're narrating it, I hear your voice. And Josh has a great narrator voice. And so he narrates. And so that's what gives me the story. I don't need to see your face, you eating the food. And some of y'all are eating the food sloppy in a way that is actually turning me off from the place. No shade. I want to see the actual situation. And so he's been really good at, I think, scaling back himself in that type of content, which I think creates the more natural effect. He doesn't have bought followers. He doesn't play around with all of that. He's focused on letting the viewer get a glimpse because he's pushing the product. He's pushing the thing. Like that's the thing that is the focal point. And a lot of people don't get that, I think. It becomes more of, look at me eating this pizza, y'all. It's so good. And they think people are following them for them, but they're not. They're following you for your content, especially if you're an influencer in a particular arena. Like they don't really care to see you. They want to see the food. And whoever can, go to the hottest spots and captivate the best way of identifying the food, I think is what drives people to follow accounts over certain accounts. Because some people think it's all the same. On the surface level, you can sense that. But when you start to really look at the way that a person is conveying the content and messaging, it changes what you want to see on your timeline. So I think there's some ingenuity there, and there's some thought there. And I think personally, if I could vote, which I cannot, I don't vote on this, but if I were to, that would be my influencer of the year. That's my personal take. So Sunday, last Sunday, not this previous Sunday, but last Sunday, in wrapping up our entire, 4th of July celebration, we went to Panorama. But this time it was Gio, his lovely sister Tori, and of course Jamarcus, the four of us. We went to Panorama, and they have this like family style feast every Sunday, from like, I believe 2 to 8 o'clock, and it's called Pranzo. And it's like an Italian type of dinner where they do cafes of wine, which you have to pay for separately, but they do all these different levels of food, like pasta, family style pastas. And it requires 4 or more people. So couples, like if it's just you and your boo, you can't participate. It's meant to be a family style dinner type of situation. So you want to go with 4 people or more. And you can do it like a couples dinner, which personally, y'all know I hate couples dinners. But you can do couples dinners, you can do a friends dinner, you can do, whatever you want to do. You can do a girls' Sunday dinner out or whatever. It is about $48 per person. And you get, appetizers, mid-courses, main course, entree, you get to pick. There's plenty of, other small bites you choose from in rotation. You get a big pasta dish. Then you get to pick an entree, which can include, veal, branzino, and other things. And there's also dessert. And all of that is under $50 per person. Come with appetite, because we definitely came in there with appetite. We definitely ate our way through. It was a beautiful feast. Highly recommend it. And Panorama is that lovely old school. It's been around for a minute. It's that wine bar that has all the wine, but broke the Guinness Book of World Records for, I believe, most wine on tap or something like that. But it's the iconic wine bar in Old City. And so it's been around for a very long time. It's right there near Penn's Landing on that edge connected to that hotel that's in that area. So it's iconic, like Penn's View, that area. You all know what I'm talking about if you've been to Old City. But they're fun. They're just a great restaurant in general. I've gone a lot with my friend Dr. Parks. She's been trying to make plans, but the girl's been booked. Well, this girl's been booked, but I'm making plans. But we went there, and I've talked about them in previous seasons, but they have those wine flights where you can pick which type of white or red wine, sparkling rosé, and they make these cute little flights where they put like about 6 or something little glasses up on a tier, and it's beautiful. And they have really great Italian food and everything else. So it's a good time. I highly recommend it. So I also went to Prunella. Prunella was fabulous. This is another Michael Shoston restaurant. I told you I'm going to be eating my way through Michael Shoston restaurants. I think I've been to almost all of them at this point. This was the one that I had not gotten a chance to go to because I had a certain, order of which I was trying to go. But as you all know, I've been on my Michael Shoston restaurant tour. I'm trying to go to all the restaurants owned by restaurant groups. I mean, Garza's keep closing down a place every 5 seconds. Unfortunately, I don't know if you all knew this, but Vauvert has closed. Vauvert in the Kimmel no longer is in operations. And it's like his empire. Every time I turn around, you all, we need to save, okay, Amada. I think, I don't want to speak ill, but if there was ever, I think if Garza's lost more and more restaurants, the one restaurant in his arsenal that I think would stay would be Amada, because they have Amada in Philly, in Old City. This is the iconic Amada, right? This Amada would be it. It would also be what's the other one? He has an Amada in Radnor, and he also has an Amada in Atlantic City, which is also gorgeous. I love the Amada in Atlantic City. I think that would be the one that would stay. That's the baby. That's the baby. But he still has other restaurants still open. He has Buenones, which is his remaining taco spot because the street was gone. He has Garza's Trading Company, but now it's evolved and it's in Sierra Circle, whatever it is called over there, in University City. He also has the Old Bar, which is the seafood, bar spot, and that's in Old City, and he also has Whiskey Village. Yeah, he has Whiskey Village still. Whiskey Village is still happening, and I mean, I think that's pretty much it. He has his catering group, so he does do catering. But yeah, it's not too many places. And I've been to all of the places I just named. And I miss the old ones. I miss Tinto, I miss Distrito, the other Hook and Ladder, which was his pizza spot, miss that spot as well. But there's a lot of spots that I miss from him. But Michael Scholsten has been expanding his brand. He's now going to be in Atlantic City. He's going to be in the Borgata. I believe he's going to have a Pearl and Mary, which is his popular, seafood oyster spot. And then Samuel's, which was a concept that was here for a small period of time. It's like a Jewish deli-esque vibe. That place was initially in on Sansom Street, where Bar Leisure used to be. But now he took Bar Leisure, that used to be where Bar Leisure was, which is right next to Giuseppe and Sons over there by Harp and Crown. But then he decided to take that concept and put that in Atlantic City, and then put Bar Leisure there, which is this new French restaurant that's been around for a couple of months and it's pretty good in my opinion. So that's the empire right there. That's the Scholsten brand. But I went to Pernella, which is in the neighborhood, Midtown Village, right across the street from Pearl and Mary, which is on what I call the second Scholsten row, which includes Pearl and Mary, Alpen Rose, Sansom, Double Knot. Not in that particular order, but they're all on that row over there. You all know what I'm talking about if you've been in the area. It's right across the street from Elvez. And, Elvez is right across from Van Luren, the ice cream place. And then on the other end is Pernella. So he has, he's in that area. But Pernella was very good. It's one of those spots where you don't want something super, super fancy, but that don't mean you don't want to give up on taste, right? So this is a place that you go to say, look, I want something cute, casual. I'll be able to make a reservation, get in at the last minute. I want pizza, pasta. I want something, it's very, modern, Italian. Philly loves Italian restaurants. Can't get enough of them, but it's very, how do I describe it? It's very chill, relaxed, no fuss, good quality food. The prices are very reasonable. Really great cocktails. It's one of those, I'm trying to go downtown the city. I want to be where everything's at. I want something that's not too over the top, but good and just good times, good vibes, something real chill. Definitely a fun happy hour situation. Definitely a cute, let me meet up with my homegirl for, a little dinner situation. It's that kind of vibe. It's cute. It's, also I would say for young couples, it's like a cute date night for a younger couple. I mean, Barry and I guess, are arguably young, but I would say, yeah, it would be like when Mr. Johnson and I go out, we typically do something a little bit more fancier, I would say. But that's because it's us and we're just extra like that. But I could see us like if I could see myself go. Like, I feel like it's something like the Lip Brothers would just go to. Like we'll just do like a dinner somewhere, like quickly. That's how I would describe it. And it's fun. It's chill. It's casual. It's a good time. Yeah, made a trip over to Apricot Stone, my good bestie college roommate, Mr. Johnson's groomman in the wedding, his best man actually, um, Abel, he came in town briefly, and we went to Apricot Stone in um, Fishtown. No, Northern Liberties. No, Fishtown. I think it's Fishtown. I can't keep up, y'all, because it's bad to say this, but at a certain point in time, I have not known the difference between Northern Liberties and Fishtown. I think it's in Northern Liberties. Yes, Apricot Stone is in Northern Liberties. I have not for the longest knew the difference between Fishtown and Northern Liberties. Excuse me from my era. It's hard because it's like I feel like they're like I know neighborhoods about to be in their feelings, but they kind of feel like the same. But Fishtown's a little bit more out, a little bit more. I think their restaurants are better. Northern Liberty restaurants, I don't think as an entire area is that good. I think there's a lot of like semi chains, very bary food. And I'm not saying that the bars are bad. I just think that the food is very like one type. Like there's like three, four like taco s spots in that area. And there are some that are good and there are some that are bad. I'm not gonna hold you. There's like a lot of trash food over there. And I don't, I'm not, and I think some of that is because of like restaurant groups and folks that just kind of dominate the area. And so there's some things that are really good and there's some stuff that's just like this is forced. And so that's kind of how I feel about Northern Liberties. And there's a lot of restaurants that are closing down over there and new ones popping up. And it's just kind of like this, what I feel manufactured fish town. Maybe that's what it is. Like I feel like they're trying to actually replicate a actual organically modeled area in town. Like Fishtown evolved into what it was, for better or for worse, depending on how you feel about it, right? But in this situation, I just kind of feel like that's not the case here. But I digress. Apricot Stone, however, is phenomenal. It's a BYOB. They have incredible Mediterranean food, very good, just overall great food, great dinner, great pricing, and again, a great BYOB. I love a BYOB. I love my Italian BYOBs, but it's always fun to find a BYOB in a city that has another type of cultural food so that you can mix your wines. Because to be honest, when you get Italian, there's only so many different types of red and white wines you can order to pair with the pastas, right? But if you do like Mediterranean food, you can get different types of reds, right? Like you can do Syrah with the lamb. Like that's like, I can't do that. I can't get Syrah and drink that with Italian food. So like, I love the diversity of BYOBs in the city because it allows for you to bring different types of wines and things of that nature to have a culturally different experience. So for those who just love your traditional like BYOB Italian spots, absolutely get your life, enjoy your Pinot Noir, right? But would it be fun to like imagine going and get out your comfort zone, going to some Thai restaurants like Mon or Filipino restaurants, Cambodia? Well, Mon is a Cambodian restaurant, but you got Tapachoy and others that do Filipino cuisine. You have Gabrielle's Vietnam, which serves Vietnamese food, and that's a BYOB. And you can bring different types of wines, plum wines and stuff. Like you can just do it differently. And so that's what I've realized with going to certain types of BYOBs in the city is that you get opportunity to also get different types of wines and pair it accordingly. Because some of you all want to just bring Merlot. Riesling I like Merlot, but Riesling, I hate I hate white wine. I love red wine, but I hate white wine. But like, Riesling to some, like, I'm like, everything has to be Chardonnay and Riesling. Like, mix it up, people. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, I love the different wines. So yeah, Apricot Stone was phenomenal. And they're also relocating to a bigger space in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned on that because I've been tracking them down and trying to follow that saga. But they are going to be having a big, huge relocation. Also, too, so ironic when I said this. Remember I told you about a place called Jara that Michael Solomonov and Steve Cook had in Brooklyn. And remember I was telling you about it was called Jaffa. I think it was called Jaffa. Okay, remember I told you about that. I told you how Abel and I a year ago or whatever went there when I went to Brooklyn. And I was telling you how I had seafood and it was this great spot. I had been to every Michael Solomonov restaurant. And I went to all the ones in Philly, but there was one in Brooklyn. Well, guess what, y'all? This fall, it is coming to Philly. Michael Solomonov is bringing Jaffa to Philly. I've already been there. I've been there a year ago. It is going to be epic. It is fun, festive. The seafood, you ain't had seafood like this. It's cultural, it's flavorful, it's a different type of spot. It's not your shuck and buck type of oyster spot. It's definitely more elevated than that, definitely more sophisticated, and it's coming from a place of origin versus just Maine and everywhere else. So when it comes to Kensington, brace yourselves. It's super exciting. Jaffa is incredible. And when I went in Brooklyn, I had a very good time. So I highly recommend it. And, think you should all check it out. So before I get into the big hot topics, as you all know, for the past week, I was at the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Constitutional Convention, which was in Chicago, my birthplace. And of course, I had a fabulous time in Chicago. I know there's going to be a lot of other conventions happening in Chicago. That journalism organization that decided to ban a certain podcast host for 5 years. I'm now down to 4 years, but I told someone I'm not coming back to that. Anyway, they're having their convention in Chicago in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, the Democratic National Convention, which is going to be spicy as hell, is also going to be in Chicago in the following week after that in August. So there's going to be a lot in Chicago. Chicago's like hot right now. You had the James Beard Awards, which they always have here. Like there's just so much stuff going on in Chicago right now. So it's a hot city right now. I had a fabulous time in Chicago. Definitely did. I stayed at the Hyatt Regency, which is where it's the big, huge convention center. And I believe the DNC is going to be here. I stay at the Hyatt Hotel right connected to it because when you go to a convention, even though I know it costs a lot of money and people talk about it, nothing beats being at the host hotel for a convention and conference. Nothing beats that because there's so much going on in the lobby. There's so much networking and you really don't want to like when you want to get up, don't have to take another, car and travel and all that. You want to be in the moment. Anything can happen. It's always fun in a location. You don't want to miss a moment. And why I say that is because the Chicago Sky, the young women, the women basketball team that's in Chicago, the WNBA women's team, they have an incredible, group, the Chicago Sky. There were some of their players in this hotel. No, I did not see Angel Reese. I know, because that's who I want to see, okay? But there were other big major players that were there, because I knew they were there, because they were tall as hell. There was one woman in there, I think she's white. She had like this long, long, long pink hair. I don't know her name, but she's got to be about 6'5" or 6'4", tall as hell, and really very fit. And I just saw her. I didn't take a picture or anything with her, but she was there, and she was dope. And so there were a lot of like famous people who were there, and I was like, yeah, this is dope. Because it was real. So highly recommend that entire trip, vibe, or whatever. Good people, wonderful time across the board. Now, restaurants that I went to was I went to Virtue, which is a Black-owned restaurant right here in Chicago. It was the best meal that I've had so far in 2024. This restaurant is critically acclaimed. It's won 2 James Beard Awards. It's considered one of the best Black-owned restaurants in America. One of the best restaurants in America, period, to be honest. Lots of coverage. They get covered. They've been covered in New York Times. Like, this is not a place that I've discovered by any means or any Columbus tip. But I've heard about it for years, and I've been wanting to go. I've had many friends before me go to, come to Chicago, and it's hard to get a reservation and things like that. But I was like dead set on this, and I booked a reservation. I want to say like 2 weeks before once I realized I was coming. When I was coming, I had booked that reservation because I didn't care, and I had an incredible dinner. Like as you all saw the pictures, that's the kind of food that food is. It's so good. It's great soul food. They had this gumbo that was impeccable. They had this delicious short rib that was just so tender and so juicy. Um, they had a 7 Up cake. Was it a 7 Up? It was like a 7 Up cake that I had that was a great dessert. Their cocktails were phenomenal. I mean, everything about it was everything I thought it was. Oh, the mac and cheese. And let me say this about this place. This is a restaurant that they make their food a certain way on purpose. Like they're very much so very they don't care about aesthetic. I mean, the food does not look bad, but it's not meant to be sexy or glamorous because they're cooking the food the right way. And anybody who grew up in the South, anywhere where you're having good home style food and you're having food that's supposed to taste right, you know that when you season it and butter it and do all the things, that when you look at it, it's not going to look very quote unquote gorgeous and high tech because the goal is to perfect the recipe. And so if you're making a good pie, if you're making a good, peach cobbler, when you look at it, right, it doesn't look like, oh my God, this is the most, appealing thing because they're cooking it correctly. And so for those reasons, right, you have to put your fork in it. You got to put your spoon in it. You got to actually eat it. And when you do that, that's when you will, you know, you will have it. So what, um, I highly recommend that restaurant. Um, just great. If you can get there, if you can make a reservation, I highly recommend you do it. It was definitely a memorable meal. I mean, so far in Philly, it's not that I've had bad food in Philly, but most of the places, there's been no new restaurants really that I've been to this year that really stood out to me. I feel like all the new restaurants are about to come late summer and definitely in the fall. But the first half of the year has just, I'm not gonna say dry. It's just has been very commercial-y. There hasn't really been any like official new restaurants. Now Bastia is coming, and I can't wait to try, them. I've had a sneak peek, and that has been very impressive. But there just have not been that many new restaurants in Philly that have come out this year that really wowed me. Like we talked like around this time last year, Malu was opened, and Malu was definitely the talk of the town and still is, right? But this is so far this year, it's been a slow start. Like, there's been restaurants that have reopened and been reimagined. And so I'm not talking about like Campar that's in South Philly, but I'm talking about places that like are brand new in its entirety. There hasn't been that many new spots that have been officially open yet. There's been some delay in Philly. And I'm just like, come on, Philly, stop with the delay. But there's been some delay. But we're going to see what happens in late summer, early fall, and see what happens there. Because at that point, fall restaurant openings is like the September issue of Vogue magazine, where it's like the definitive thing. So, putting that out there. So yeah, there's been a lot of great restaurants. We went to Harold's Chicken, which I'll never stop talking about Harold's Chicken and that mild and sweet sauce. Um, it's an institution in Chicago. It's a Chicago institution. Like nothing compares to that fried chicken and that food. They just have. I mean, it's not a restaurant. I mean, it's a restaurant, but it's really not a restaurant. It's like a pickup spot. You go there, you place your order, you get your chicken. It's fried, it's greasy, it's flavorful. It's there's nothing like it. And so we had that. I had deep dish pizza, of course. I had to have an original Chicago deep dish pizza. But it was a good time. It was just so good. And it's so funny. Like Chicago, I just feel like is on the map right now. You got the Bear, show that's popular, that's, getting eyes on it. The food scene, the women's basketball team is popping, all these conventions. Like Chicago is definitely on not saying it's ever left the building, but it's definitely having a reemergence in the conversation. Like I feel like we're talking about Chicago more than we have in recent years. I think we haven't talked about Chicago this much since, former President Barack Obama. So, there is a reemergence, I feel like, in this city. So we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a really fabulous time, and I'm looking forward to all the excitement and, what's to come, because it's been quite the experience. It's been quite the journey, and whatnot. So I was here for the Alpha convention, and there's been a lot of things in the news and a lot of chatter. And, as a brother of a fraternity, you can't speak about everything so openly. But what I will say is that sometimes the media gets it wrong with context. And what I will say is that people can propose to do things, but proposing to do something isn't necessarily doing it. I'll just say that. You can propose something, an individual or a subset of people can propose something, but as we know, proposals do not immediately become policy. It does not become law. You actually have to go, and requires voting and discussion and chapters ratifying and putting things into effect, and lawyers reviewing and looking at if those things can be done. And that's how policy works and gets implemented in institutions. And so the Constitutional Convention that I went to was to look at various policies and constitutional bylaws into the fraternities organizations. I won't specify what those changes were. That's not neither here nor there. But what I will say is that anybody can propose anything, but that doesn't mean it will be implemented and be in effect in the manner to which people propose things. So anybody who's ever been a part of a company or organization knows that a person can propose anything, and then it takes a body of plenty of people to debate, to discuss, to change, to switch, to move before something comes into an effect. So sometimes the media, for various reasons, will jump the gun and act as if something is, and it is not. And I say this because I think about when I cover city council, right? I'm always big on announcing when an elected official announces or proposes a bill, because proposing a bill or proposing something is very different from actual implementation. Like, for example, city council member Jay Young had proposed, to subpoena the mayor and her administration, Mayor Sherelle Parker and her administration, regarding, certain matters with the what people consider a safe injection site in his, not safe injection site, like a recovery location in his district that was authorized by the mayor. And so there was all this talk about subpoenas and sanctions and all this stuff. But in the end, guys, he never actually enacted it. The city council never, went through on it. It never was taken for a vote. It never happened. He proposed it, but it never actually happened. And I think we never saw the press amplify the fact that it never actually ended up happening in the end, because there was so much shock about the proposal that we never actually got into the fact that anyone can propose it. Any city council member can propose anything, right? But we never talk about when something gets shut down or doesn't happen in the way in which we think it is. And so as a journalist, I have oftentimes made it clear that you don't want to jump the gun and create panic and create fear based on things that have not been fully fleshed out or executed out. And so that's what I will say. I will also say that in any institution I'm a part of, any group that I'm a member of or affiliated with, if I see something that concerns me on any issue or topic, I am going to make sure I use my voice, because I'm allowed to make it clear my concerns. And I will work with other people who share similar beliefs and thoughts as well. And I want to say that my time at this convention was great. I definitely was able to have my voice heard on several matters. I shared thoughts. I, influenced and gave thoughts on policies. I, definitely, exercise my full rights as a life member of the organization in my own capacity with the people that I know and my individuality. So that's a space that I can say that everybody's voice gets heard. People get to express their views. People get to debate respectfully, civically, because we need more of that in this society. And it was a beautiful thing. And I'm overall happy that I'm a part of an organization, a Black organization that allows for people to express their views and to get to the bottom of things, to make things better and not worse. And I feel optimistic and hopeful leaving this convention that there's going to be great, important changes and discussions to be had to further, amplify the incredible work that this historic Black fraternity is doing. And that is what I will say, and read that as you may, but I feel good. I feel good. And I had a great time meeting so many incredible Black men, brothers across the country. We had lots of fun, lots of hanging out. We worked hard, we played hard. We was up till early in the morning to the end of the night, just doing the work. And it was great to be able to connect and just hear great stories about how this organization has transformed and changed people's lives, and what it means, and what it means right now in a year like 2024, with so much going on in our politics and our society. It just looks good to see. It just feels good. And it was just like seeing all these Black men who have achieved all these different experiences and have families and what they do and how they help each other. It's just, sometimes you just want more of that. Like, you just want people to just more. Like, what are we doing to amplify it? And in many ways, in my experience, I'm amplifying that. I'm getting to show more different narratives and experiences of Black men across this country and what we're doing, because so much of the conversation, and there's some conversation that need to be had clearly, but a lot of it is just distorted. And I'm all about truth, but I'm also about the balance of truth, right? That yes, there could be situations where there is problems with Black men in incarceration. There is gun violence. There is these other issues, and that's accurate. And we should pay attention to that. But we also should broaden our scope of recognizing, acknowledging, and celebrating Black men who are doing good things, who are trying to make a difference, who are inclusive, who are progressive, that are doing those things. Because that's what I think now I'm more interested in changing the distortion or the over-indexing of one image versus another. That yes, these things are true, but these things are also true. And why are we not amplifying what I consider positive truth compared to truths that are more dissettling, right? Disheartening. It's about that balance. I think that's what we say in journalism. We say fair and balanced. So there was a lot there as well. But overall, it was great to be in Chicago for the past week. It was great to catch up with people. I bumped into my cousin from Detroit, who's an alpha, and I just saw him at my cousin Rachel's wedding in Detroit. And the whole time I knew he was an alpha, but I couldn't say anything. I was going through the process. And then we finally got to see each other, and we took a selfie, and it was like dope, and it was just really fun. So this was a lot, catching up in my birthplace with family, friends, and just all these incredible brothers. So that was the changer for me. So it was very touching. It was very touching. It was very touching, and wouldn't change that for anything. For anything. So that's powerful. So yeah, Chicago was great, and that's what's been going on with me. So let's get into the hot topics, because clearly we got a lot of them, a damn lot of them. But more so, I want to unpack some things because there's been a lot going on. And so let's get into these hot topics. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening. The big one is the reality of what took place this weekend. Former President Donald Trump survived what has been reported as an assassination attempt. And this is no laughing matter. He was in Pennsylvania, as many of you already know. He was on a rally just really days away from the RNC, which is the Republican National Convention, which is going to be taking place in Milwaukee, starting this week. And he was giving a speech. He was about to start, really going on his whole tirade about immigrants, and was shot at. There have been several conflicting reports. Initially, people thought that the bullets from the rifle was hit the teleprompters, forcing the glass to come out. But that has been debunked. The New York Times took photos, and the photography had caught the bullet gazing past him, going right past his ear, but clearly not injuring him directly in the head or, directly impacting him in that way. But there was a gaze, which led to the excessive bleeding. Secret Service came to, go down and, get him to the floor. There's been lots of reports from people who's been involved in the Secret Service that the way it works is that whenever there is a threat, Secret Service goes out and literally defend the president, like try to protect him, risk their lives. So the goal is to get him on the floor, get him down as much as they can. This is the first major assassination attempt of a U.S. president or former president since Ronald Reagan in the early 80s, which, a lot of people remember the situation with Jodie Foster. It was this person who's obsessed with Jodie Foster, the actress, the Oscar-winning actress, and attempted to assassinate President Reagan due to that type of level of fandom and standum. So it's not something that is unfamiliar to us. It's just something that we hadn't witnessed in decades. In my lifetime, I had never witnessed an assassination attempt of a president. There are mentors of mine who have, lived through JFK's assassination, the other Kennedys, right? Reagan, but we hadn't seen anything like this in decades. There's been several reports. There's been different narratives, right? There's been folks who have said things, lots of conflict and stuff. There's, folks who are, there's been a lot of conspiracy theorists, of course. There's been a lot of people who, believe the situation was staged. There's been all of that, right? And I'm not going to entertain that. I'm not going to entertain the conspiracy theorists. I get it. I get where we've come. But we clearly know, right? We know now that the person who did this was a 20-year-old white male. He, is a registered Republican who has lived, who's lived in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is where the rally took place. He's a 20-year-old. His name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was killed immediately by Secret Service following his attempt to assassinate the former president. He's been a registered Republican. Several reports have come out that he was a conservative. He donated in 2021 $15 through Act Blue, which is a Democratic allied organization. This information came from the Pennsylvania voter registration and FEC data. So pretty much this is not someone from the extreme left. There was a lot of narratives initially from conservatives, of course, looking to, point the blame, looking to easily, find a scapegoat and all that. But it seemed like this, and appears to be, that this attack came from inside of the former president's own backyard, which says a lot. The call coming inside of the house is saying a lot, right? That for some time, there has been this otherness in the political conversation where the right retaliate against the left retaliate against the right, but it appears to be internal. That this young white man who lives in a rural part of a battleground state, who typically, when the image, it's always the narrative of lone wolf. That doesn't seem so far to be this man's story. there is no understanding yet of as to why this man attempted to try to assassinate Trump. There isn't any initial findings of any extreme political ideology or anything of that nature. There have been some classmates who have told the press that he was a conservative, so there isn't a question there. But there's still more questions, right? I know that Secret Service, as of the time of recording this podcast, is trying to get into a cell phone and find out more information. There has been onlookers who have basically said that Secret Service did not do the best job in protecting the former president because several people had seen the shooter on the roof. He shot at the president from the roof. And, there was several of instances where people had seen it. There's some audio videos that came out where apparently people were saying the individual's name, which outwardly identified him. There's just been a lot of questions about why wasn't the location secure? Why wasn't, how could this have happened, right? And what is also being talked about is that one of the individuals at the rally was someone who was killed by the shooting. There was a father who was a firefighter who died in an attempt to try to protect his family at the rally. 2 other people are injured, but they are going to be fine apparently. But they were in one's critical condition. But apparently they're on the mend. They're going to appear to survive. So yeah, it's a lot of. There was a life taken. Of course, the shooter was killed, but the individual who I guess was an attendee of the rally has lost their life. So there is a lot of concern, a lot of questions and frustrations. So many thoughts. There's been a lot of politicians that's come out to condemn violence. Republicans, of course, Democrats have come out to condemn violence, have, given out lots of statements. It seems like everybody is condemning violence. Some people are not even elected officials or just putting out statements saying they condemn violence. And, I kind of feel like it's, at that point it's performative. Like if you're an elected official, dignitary, right, I understand the need publicly for politicians to speak out against it, right, as elected. The mayor of Philadelphia has, the Governor Shapiro, of course, has, other electeds in the Congress, both sides of the political aisle have. I get that, right? But then there's been this weird thing of other people who are just regular people who feel like they need to put out a statement condemning violence. And there's been lots of, language and rhetoric in the media saying that, that this has, started the period of, political violence, that this political violence is unacceptable. And now the country is going in a very divisive turn into political violence. That has been said through various reports from CNN and others using this particular word, political violence, and initiating that something sinister has happened and the country is going to a different direction. So I will say that during the first 48 hours of any tragic, traumatic event, I've gotten used to this as a journalist, observing how this stuff takes shape. In the beginning, there is massive conspiracy theory and shock. Like, people can't believe it happened. People begin to create stories in their own head. People begin to put out misinformation. People begin to, rely on sources that then conflict with the stories. So it's a lot of stuff that happens in the initial phase. And then there becomes, in that time period, and this is any moment, I'm telling you, I don't care, look up any tragic moment in American history, and there's a typical pattern, right? So the first half comes, the first part, and I'm talking about the first 48 hours, right? Because this is very important. It will be a series of things, right? There'll be the conspiracy theorists, the misinformation, quick snap reactions, and all that. Then during that time, you'll have a massive groundswell of abundant, immediate, sympathy and remorse, thoughts and prayers. You get that too. Then you'll also get people who will do the quick finger pointing and blaming. And that becomes, in the semi round where it becomes the immediate group of people that want to point the finger either way, upside down, that joke reaction. And then there becomes what I call the group that will then make the false conflations. And they'll conflate one thing to another thing and try to give a really fast reacting answer, and that missed. And then you get the media who, in addition to stirring that shit up, will do revisionist history. Everything becomes the unprecedented thing, the first time this has happened, and some of there is some facts in that, but then some of it gets over embellished. And then whoever is the victim or the perpetrator either gets vilified or gets, depending on their race or gender identity, gets, I would say, infantized to a certain extent or vilified, right? Depending on the race. And where I'm going with this, Black people, but it's that. And then you get, those moments where people call for peace, people, beg of humanity, for good or for worse. So we're seeing all of those stages play out right in front of us, and it always do. The first 48 hours of any massive public tragedy, you get all of that, and some type of variation. But I want to be clear about my perspective about this, right? That two things can be true at the same time. That, yes, we should not want anyone to, be the victim of an assassination. That we shouldn't wish that kind of harm on a person, just in general. That's a fact. It's a fact. However, we can't ignore reality and history, and in the sense of showing some level of empathy or sympathy, whatever you want to call it, begin to erase, ignore the warning signs and the climate that led to this. And to do so would be to be foolish and to see history repeat itself again. So I will say that this didn't start this weekend, right? That this violence, this political violence started. I mean, we can get really philanthropic and say America has been a politically violent nation since its inception in the 1700s, even when it came to this country, when the Pilgrims came to this indigenous land, there was political violence there. There was political violence during the Civil War, slavery, Jim Crow, 9/11, the MOVE bombing in Philadelphia. There's been political violence throughout the history of America. America has been politically violent in its attempt to be a global force. Like, that's just there. But let's just say, okay, you don't want to get too deep in the weeds. You don't want to get too philosophical. You don't want to, even though that isn't necessarily the case, but let's just say you didn't want to go there. We could talk about Charlottesville, right? When this president in 2017 said there were 5 men on both sides when someone's life was taken in an act of white supremacists clashing with those who were against. That was an act of political violence. Okay. You see, that's an isolated incident. Okay, let's just go to January 6th, 2021. I don't think it gets any more politically violent than that. That this president sat back and saw people calling for his vice president to be hung. And Secret Service had to protect then Vice President Mike Pence, as many of his former supporters was attempting and speaking on potentially assassinating the then Vice President of the United States. So I'm just trying to make it clear that on several occasions, political violence was tolerated by members of Congress, the U.S. Senate, and even this country. And that perhaps the reason why some people aren't necessarily going so super empathetic, super peace giver, peacekeeper, because in so many ways, they've become desensitized. That for some reason, it wasn't shocking. It was definitely baffling. But I don't know if the word is shocking is surprising to me, because ever since this podcast started in early 2021, right? The very beginning, the first episode of Ernestly Speaking, 7 seasons, 6 seasons ago, we came into this podcast talking about January 6th, 2021. And for whatever reason, people just seem to have a sudden amnesia about what happened on January 6th, 2021. Because in many ways, since then, there has been a level of defending rhetoric that incited the violence. The Supreme Court is litigating, in many ways, this idea of presidential immunity for what took place, and Congress failing to, convict the president, then president, for his behavior. The consistent levels of impeachments that have not landed into actual consequences, even though we have someone who pretty much struggled, even during the presidential debate, to outwardly condemn and speak against the horrific, violent attack that killed several people on January 6th, 2021. There were no calls for unity bipartisan unity. There was no bipartisan unity in condemning what happened on January 6th, right? Republicans and Democrats did not unify in saying January 6th was horrible. Democrats did, but Republicans as a collective didn't. And some encouraged it, promoted it before it even happened, and defended the rhetoric that was used when it happened. So for the Republicans who are trying to talk about condemning violence and demanding that everyone must speak out, please spare me the lecture, the debate to any person in this country that has been asking for nonviolence overseas, in this country, who've been speaking out against domestic terrorism in this country, been condemning gun violence in this country before it happened on the right, but just in general. We don't need the lecture. I don't need the lecture. The call is coming from inside the House, as they would say. Democrats, of course, are going to condemn violence. They always do. Black people don't need to condemn violence. We've been doing it forever. We've been telling everybody else to stop being violent to us. We're the ones saying, don't kill us. We've been the ones saying Black Lives Matter. We're the ones that have been saying stop police brutality. We've been the ones demanding it. So we don't need this lecture. We've been saying, let's stop this madness before something bad ends up happening. And something bad has ended up happening. And so while I observe all of these headlines, all of this news, I want to be very clear that history has taught us that you get it how you lose it. Violence begets violence. Hatred begets hatred. If you get something through misinformation and violence, you might lose it through information, misinformation, and violence. We are in a climate that has been instigated by political leaders who are now doing a bait and switch and saying enough is enough. And if it's sincere, welcome to the party. Join the club of many Americans for many years who've been trying to dial back the rhetoric, who's been asking for politicians to have compassion, asking politicians to come up with sensible gun policies, right? Because when people have assault weapons, this individual did not get this weapon illegally, but the fact that they even have access to a weapon of this magnitude, what do you expect would happen with a weapon that belongs to an individual like this? What would you do with a rifle like that? All of these people, these Marjorie Taylor Greens, all these people posing with these assault rifles and these weapons, playing around, trying to, incite and instigate and stick a big middle finger up to liberals. Sometimes you will cut your nose to spite your face. And in so many ways, that is what has happened here. There's been a level of individuals who now have to eat their words because for so long, you never said this wasn't okay. You thought it was cool when it happened to Gabby Gifford. You thought it was okay when people were going after, Gretchen Weiner in Michigan. And Michigan Maryland was plans to kidnap her. There was all of these okay remarks when the situation happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband. All of the misinformation, the rumors, the jokes, the mocking. This was bound to happen, is what I'm trying to say. This was a matter of time because of just how heated things were getting. There were already behavior, right? We're forgetting that there were people that came in January 6th looking for Nancy Pelosi. We're forgetting that her husband was attacked. We're forgetting all of these political actions. We're looking about what happened in Michigan and what happened to Governor, Gretchen. This is stuff that people were planning. But see, when it was happening to people on the left, it was okay. It was okay to be quiet and to be silent or to dismiss it. If it happened to our current president, Joe Biden, I know that the conversation would be different. It's just where we're at. And it's frustrating because I have to see all of the ridiculous rhetoric, all of the conspiracy theories. And to be clear, when you have spent time and years disagreeing and putting out misinformation on other ends, you can't be surprised. I mean, in many ways, Trump has been a part of the problem that has now become a problem now for him. This is an environment and culture that didn't fall from the sky, on January 13th. This is something that because of the direction the country's been going, it's gotten to this point. And I kept saying to myself that the way that things were going, it was almost like the fact that nothing had happened at this level. It's like eventually someone in this country was going to react in a way because it's been a ticking time bomb. All of the rhetoric, all of the indoctrination, all of the stand-up, all the obsessiveness, all of the hatred, it was bound to happen. And it's unfortunate. But what's interesting in this situation is that normally when we have these conversations about political violence, people often expect it to be something internal. People forget that Malcolm X was assassinated by someone who looked like him. It's issues that take place internally that leads to sometimes the biggest violent things happening, to sometimes be in proximity to the individual who is the victim. What do I hope? I don't know. What I would hope for is that there's some real conversations. I'm skeptical. Um, I don't want to say I don't believe it's going. Listen, it could go two ways, right? This could be a situation where the former president politicizes it, use it as a moment to continue to speak more dangerous rhetoric, continue to, use his opportunity to blame the left, to make it more political, to stroke more fear, to create even more polarization, and to campaign off of that and exploit it, right? That's one possibility. Another possibility could be that this could be a real serious wake-up call for everybody to get mature, to get serious, and to take all of this serious. Because sometimes the most powerful people who are privileged with resources and all the protections they think they have believe that they can say the things because they'll be untouchable. What we saw this weekend is that no one is untouchable in this current political climate. And that there are consequences, foreseen and unforeseen, when we create a culture where there's an eye for an eye, that there is violence, political violence, right? Conversations and entertaining ideas about hurting political rivals and violence and being immune. It's like everybody is on site. It's on site with everybody, it looks like, anybody. Because I would have personally never predicted that Trump would have been the victim of an assassination attempt. I would have thought that Biden would have been much sooner given everything going on, but that wasn't the case. But this is, I think, reset a lot of things right now. And a lot of people are jumping up to say that this means Trump's going to get elected. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think, if anything, it has made everyone wake up to realize, how did we get here? And there's no way that you can say we got here just off of random political division. We got here because of the fact that there was misleadership at the top, right? That when Trump was the president, he fueled at his rallies and was continuing to a culture that just encouraged people to fight. And he's been purposely ambiguous about that. There was a lot of ambiguity around what he meant. And so, yes, there's the photo with him with the fist up and, tell people to keep fighting. It's just a lot of this stuff, right? But this is serious. And in many ways, I hope that it wakes him up to chill out. Like just be quiet on that. Like, don't keep poking a bear when it comes to violence and this type of level of division. One would be optimistic, but also I'm no fool. Given the way that we've already seen Republicans continue to politicize this issue and create false narratives. There were people, some elected state figures, asking for Biden to be accountable for the attempted, there's been, what? No. We got to stop this. We got to stop. At some point, we got to stop this. The consistency of not knowing who to believe, right? Which has been warranted by leaders who are now experiencing it themselves. All I know is I'm keeping my eyes on the prize. I think that regardless of what happened, which was an unfortunate incident for this former president, I don't know where all this, there was some dumb article which has been taken off the internet, right? This article that was in Forbes that was just poorly written for several reasons. The individual who wrote it is a black man. His name is Dr. Sean Harper. He used to be at the University of Pennsylvania. I know who he is. I've known him for years. He is a big DEI leader in higher education. He is currently, I think he just recently, he's at USC, but he's supposed to be leaving soon. He's in their race and equity division. He's not a journalist, but he's been a contributor at Forbes, and Forbes got this contributor situation where people can write articles, and a lot of times those articles don't get vetted. But this headline kind of spoke to this. Now that Trump is a victim of gun violence, will he now use that to attract black voters? And it went into this whole rhetoric around how Trump was, being shot and how he faced, legal troubles, and will that be appealing? I don't think that Sean Harper, first of all, he's not a Republican. He's not a Trump supporter. I just think that the tone deafness and not reading the room and not understanding time and place and what the fuck, that the jerk me reaction is to write something like that in the middle of all of the shit that's going on. Just so dumb. Just a dumb decision, reckless, irresponsible. And Forbes took it down because the mere headline alone got so many people on the internet fired up. They didn't even know that he was black. I mean, people didn't even know. And then when people found out, they were just like, what? The only way I can describe it is just that very, and there's a lot of people in higher ed. I always say they act as celebs, but there's a lot of people in higher ed that want attention so much. A lot of them want to be journalists so bad or be in the media mix. They just want visibility so bad and so thirsty for it that they will just always have these strong, ridiculous takes, hot takes as they call it, to be in the conversation. And now when the conversation don't go too well, they don't want to say much. They don't want to be around. They don't want to talk about anything. And I think that's cowardly, because if you're going to put something up that's going to cause a level of extreme disdain, you should also be responsible that when it backfires, you got to own your shit. And I think that that's one of those things where you got to own your shit. And we don't see enough of that. Enough of that self-accountability. And that's how situations like this persist, because people don't own their shit. So, yeah, that was bad. Just different folks saying different things on the internet. I caution people to say, listen, think before you post. Just think before you post. It's not worth losing your job. It's not worth, getting into trouble. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Just, if you don't have the economic freedom to pop your shit and talk your shit, just be thoughtful. Even if it's a good point or somebody might agree with it, now's not the time to lose your job trying to be cute or popping on social media. Not worth it. When a situation like that happens, you just say it's too easy. When it's too easy, you go turn around, because it's so much that can be said. And it's like, do you care enough? What's the point? Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Have those conversations with them. But don't risk it all on social media, child. It's not worth it. There's too many people, in some stuff right now. There's some state reps. There's some people right now. I'm seeing PA posted something, and people it's just already get people in trouble. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep it cute. One of the things I do when I don't have the words, or if I have the words, but the words is not going to come out the way it should. So that's why you have a podcast to work it out, to get it out, is I just amplify people who are making those points. If there's people that's making some sound points or saying it in an eloquent way, I'm just going to retweet them and reshare them. And so you probably saw me during the weekend just reposting other folks that things that they said. I'm just like, you got it. Yep, you made that point. I ain't got nothing else to say. There you go. Look at that, right? I don't got too much to say. I did think it was interesting, and I don't even say interesting, but like even maybe predictable that in some ways, when you're going through a tragic moment, to over embellish it, to do performativeness in the midst of something that is very traumatic, just speaks volumes to one's character. I just the fist pump, all of that chanting and rooting. I'm like, you just got shot at. Like, what are you doing? Like, Secret Service is literally risking their lives trying to protect you, and you're trying to tell them to get off you so you can still have a certain type of ego boost. That to me is like, are you trying to be a martyr? Like, what is going on? Because that's a very like the moment there's a shooting of that nature, I don't know. People respond to trauma very differently. All I know is if it would have been me, I would have kept my ass on that floor. When they took me out, especially when I knew I was bleeding, get me up out of there. Take me up out of there. Get me away from all of the harm. I don't want any of that. But again, there'll be people that will politicize it and say it's a hero act, it's this, is this. And it's just too much rhetoric, too much conspiracy, it's just too much. And it's exhausting people. I think for me, looking at the situation, people are trying to assess all this. What is it going to mean for the election? It can mean a lot of things. It can mean a lot of things. Some people might be more empathetic to the former president. But that's going to be determined by how he conducts himself for the rest of the campaign. Like if he goes right back into the same problematic rhetoric, that is going to change people's perspective, right? It's going to be people like, well, there you go, right? There's going to be that. If his supporters and other people continue to badger the left and create lies and false innuendos, then you're going to see the same division and nothing's going to move and change. There's also people who might see this situation and feel like, is this going to be a situation that we're going to see for another 4 years if he's reelected? That is it the fact that because he's become so politically polarizing, is this going to be the new reality that we're going to see in the next 4 years? Based on how politically polarizing he's gotten, is this going to be a norm? Because an innocent person has lost their life behind all this shit. And it wasn't the person who was the target. Neither one should be injured. But the fact that an innocent father who was there has now lost their life behind this energy, I would want people to give more energy and focus to the fact that, yes, while the former president was fortunately not injured, killed or assassinated, right? All of that, somebody was. And that should be a cause to say, shut up right now. Everybody stop right now and recognize that somebody did lose their life who walked in there not choosing or not putting themselves in a predicament where they could have. And so innocent lives are being lost in this situation. So I think some people might consider him a political and public safety liability. That could be the case now that this has become something that's gotten to this point. So there's a lot. It's not an easy, one-stop shop. There's a lot of responses, reactions, and things that could take shape. But now that we have the RNC coming up this week in Milwaukee, if people are not trying to tone down the rhetoric, but only double down on the violence and hatred, it ain't gonna move the needle on him. But we got to see. So that kind of brings me into my next point. The news media for the past 2 weeks have been consistently asking for the president to step down. You all knew what my thoughts were when this first came up during the season 6 finale. Here we are, y'all. Been 2 weeks. This president has not stepped down. At this point, with everything going on, I don't think he is. And I think with everything that's going on right now, the Democratic Party should be smart and go ahead and close this. Because it's getting too hot, right? It's getting too hot. The president believes he's the man for the job. At the end of the day, this is the only man who has defeated Donald Trump. His Democratic opponents in the past, like Hillary Clinton, couldn't. His, Trump's primary challengers in his own party couldn't. But only one person has. And that's the current president of the United States. A lot has been said about Biden's performance. It's all of this. And it's starting to get a little, I'm again not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but it's just getting a little too staged for me, right? This consistent dogpiling of sorts. The dogpiling is getting to the point where, George Clooney's coming out like George Clooney, writing op-eds, different elected officials, advisors. And at a certain point, I feel multiple ways. I feel like if everybody knew that Biden had these problems, or they feel this right now, the debate should have not been the drawing point. I'm just trying to figure out, why did all of a sudden the debate becomes the thing when literally there's been several previous situations, and it just seems like now everyone says this is the final straw. Nah. I'm not here for it. I'm not buying it. I mean, at this point, I feel like he's able, he may not be the sharpest he's been, but that comes with age. But at the end of the day, he's able to communicate and get his point across, and I'm not confused about where he stands. He makes some gaffes, whatever. But at the end of the day, he knows right from wrong. He knows how to tell the truth. And if anything was unfortunately happen to him while he's in the White House, he will have a vice president that's more than qualified to take the role. But to create more political chaos, especially following what has just happened, it's just too much. The point is moved. Democrats, y'all had 2 weeks. It ain't happened. And guess what? Don't look like it's going to happen, because all of the fear that people thought. Remember I told y'all this, right? There's a new report, because everybody's talking about polling. There's a new poll that has come out, and it's basically said, with data and survey, now that the debate is calmed down, that most people did not change their position on who they were going to vote for based on the debate. Womp, womp, womp. Yeah, all of that, voters this vote, the polls say otherwise, which you all knew. I told you this 2 weeks ago, because most Americans have moved on. Do they think Biden should be running for president at his age? They don't prefer it. But if the election is between Trump and Biden today or tomorrow, they're sticking beside Biden regardless. Let me be very clear. There were several people that could have stepped up and challenged the president you're not going to be a coward and wait until the primaries are over to then have people putting up candidates at a Democratic convention that has not been tested by the public for various reasons. And anybody thinking, and let me be very clear, if the president decides not to run, that needs to be his decision because he was chosen by his party. Voters like myself who went to the primary booth and voted for him. You're not going to disenfranchise thousands upon thousands, millions of votes across this country. Several months of primaries, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do it. And actually, there were people who ran against Biden in the Democratic Party. Wasn't that many people, but there were some candidates. And nobody voted for them. So, again, we have who we wanted. And you can't disenfranchise what voters voted for. Because you do that, and then it creates more frustration. And again, if Biden chooses, if he decides to say in the end, I want to step down. Knock, knock, who's there? Kamala Harris, who? Kamala Harris better get the next nomination for president from the Democratic Party. Period. You're not going to skip over a black woman or skip over somebody because at the end of the day, again, she did get elected. The majority of Americans not only just voted for Biden, but voted for Kamala as well. So what you're not going to do is act like she didn't go out here and campaign to get this president to win. Because I argue that without Kamala, I don't know if Biden would have necessarily won or has won as big as a margin. I think she did a lot to get black voters enthusiastic to show up to the polls. That's why they picked her. And they also knew that she would be with, ride or die. She could do the job. She was competent. And she's been the vice president for 4 years. She's, got foreign policy experience. She's traveled across the world. She's done work. So I would personally be disgusted if they try to pull a Gavin Newsom in this right now. Because I would say, so I'm trying to understand, why would Gavin Newsom be more qualified to be the president when you have a seated currently vice president that literally is the next in line? If something currently happens to our current president, how is she not prepared to be next in line for the Democratic nomination if this president steps down for being a candidate, right? Because if he stepped down from the office, she technically would be the next president. So I'm just trying to understand the logic here. Because this better not be an open DNC if Biden was to step. It better be Harris immediately. Because all this open, DNC, you're going to create all this division within the party. This reminds me of 2016. When Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Bros couldn't get their shit together, wanted to make a political statement because I guess they assumed that no one was going to vote for Trump. So Bernie and others continued to play this game, and it fractured the party. And it fractured the party so much that a lot of votes that could have went to Hillary went to, third-party candidates. And also a lot of those votes, people just sat down and didn't show up to the polls because they were already over it. We can't do that again. We can't do that. Because the reality is that the people that want Biden wants Biden. All of these Democratic leaders, and it ain't that many of them, but the ones the majority of them are white, the majority of them are men that want to get a new leader. They're ignoring the base of this party. Black voters do not want Biden to leave because black voters are pragmatic and black voters are practical. Their mindset is, if he is the one that's going to be able to deliver the W and the win, what are we talking about? And what are we basing our fears off of? Because the data is showing that the debate that they're using, right? They're using the debate as the symbol for why he should not be. Because let me be clear. If it was several things that was wrong with Biden before the debate, we would have been had this conversation hashed out. It's the debate they're using. Well, the polls show that the debate did not have an impact on voters. Now, move along. I think there are some nasty-ass Democrats that want to capitalize off of the debate to now throw this petty-ass fight. We ain't got time for that. The DNC, the Democratic National Convention, is going to be here in a month in Chicago in August. The RNC is about to happen. If you paint the picture to the American public that right now the Republicans are coming together in unison to support their leader, because now everything changes, right? Now Nikki Haley is going to come out and support Trump. It's going to happen this week. She's going to speak at the RNC. She's going to support Trump because she can't not support him. Because the timing of what has happened to him has now set the stage for him now to be elevated on a certain level. The Republicans are going to unite behind Trump like we've never seen him before. Even if Republican voters are still mixed on him, the Republican Party is going to go 100% behind him. And here's the thing, too. His running mate, right, who we believe will be announced very, very soon, definitely should be at the RNC. When this person comes out, people think it's going to be J.D. Vance, which if it is J.D. Vance, holy smokes, okay? You thought Sarah Palin was a problem. Watch out for J.D. Vance. But if J.D. Vance becomes the running mate alongside of Trump, first of all, Republicans are very much so divided on him. They are not a fan. But if he picks him, they're going to swallow it because they want to set an example to the public that they are the united party. If Democrats do not get over this shit and stop with these calls for Biden to resign and let this incident that happened this weekend be the reset, then it's going to look like Democrats are not selling their candidate, so why should the American people be as well? Who needs Republicans if you're going to have backstabbing, backbiting Democrats? So Democrats have to make a decision, and I think the decision is clear to me now. Drop the resignation conversations. It's not happening. Biden will be our Democratic, Freudian slip, our Democratic presidential nominee, and he will be the person on the ballot, and he will be the reason why this country will continue to work upward and healing will seriously begin, because the other alternative, I don't see the unity coming for everybody. It will come for his party, but I don't see it for everybody. So we really got to see how this plays out. But I really think Democrats, stop with the panic. Stop with the last minute freakouts, because everybody else is ready to get the ball rolling. It's time to get ready for November. We're not going back, we're going forward. It's time to focus on the issues. All of this talk about, Biden got this person's name confused. Nobody cares. He was getting names confused before the debate. Now, every single time he does an interview, you're going to focus on that. It's like, I don't care. The American public does not care. They've moved on. They've already said that they wish there wasn't even a rematch between Trump and Biden. Most Americans would rather see two new candidates run, but we didn't get that. So now we got what we got, and we're going to fight it out and duke it out at the polls. Let me be clear, at the polls, and let it happen. Let it happen. And my mindset is, Democrats, now that we have what we have and who we have, go hard for him. Because if you don't, we're going to remember, history is going to remember. Like we remember the folks that said we could afford a Trump presidency. We're going to remember who sat on the sidelines in what we have decided to say is the most consequential election of our time. We're going to remember the celebrities who are going to stay rich regardless, who did not support the everyday man and people who wanted to save this democracy. Pick your battles. Pick your battles. Because this ain't it. This ain't it. So moving along, the Pennsylvania state budget got passed, which is good. For a while, it was lots of debates. Pennsylvania state budget got passed. I mean, some of the bigger headlines is that the vouchers in Pennsylvania did not get expanded. Bye-bye vouchers. Thank goodness for that. Tell Jay-Z and his team they can go somewhere with that rhetoric and that bullshit. Rock Nation, whoever they want to be today. We ain't here for it. So that was good to see. Public schools is getting more money. More money is going into K to, grade 12 education, more than we've ever seen in years. Hopefully that will help Philadelphia because it definitely needs the money. Our public schools definitely need the money. So that's promising. A lot of other resources have happened for Alzheimer's. People are getting more money in that department, resources there. Lots of support for other technology and programming, job trainings and things. So the budget seemed to be in the right direction. And, there could always be more to be said, but shit is getting done and I have no qualms there. But it's interesting because we are now seeing a state rep call for changes with the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. Jared Solomon is at it again. He is asking for, pretty much there to be some real reform with the Sheriff's Office. And there's a lot of big news coming out about it. He says that they need reform. City Council could amend the Philadelphia's Home Rule Charter, or lawmakers in Harrisburg could initiate impeachment proceedings. But there is some interesting conversations being had. Jared Solomon's been speaking on this for a minute. He's a state representative in Northeast, and he wants an overhaul of the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. He's accused Sheriff Rochelle Bilal of quote-unquote administrative malpractice. I agree with that. And also claiming that she's causing people to lose faith in all government. Also fair. He's talked about the massive delays in transferring deeds to sheriff sales. A lot of other issues going on there, right? And he's called her a train wreck. He's called the office a train wreck. And let me be very clear. He makes it a good point, and I've said this too. This office has been a problem before Rochelle Bilal got the position. Previous people have been in the position has been under lots of scrutiny, and he's asking for the city government to do something. I don't think they are. I don't think the politically, the Democratic City Council is going to want to politically go after Rochelle Bilal's office. They support her. They continue to give her budget money. So they're not going to do it. So really what this needs to be is Harrisburg needs to step up and get into it. Yeah. The deed processing is bogged down. It's gotten worse. There's so many other issues. And the truth of the matter is the sheriff's office can be eliminated if people put the question on the ballot, but the city council is not going to do it. I doubt that they're going to do it. It'd be nice, but yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm not going to have my hopes up, but we'll see. This week, if you're a city worker, you probably either love Sherelle Parker, Mayor Sherelle Parker, or hate her. As you can imagine, there's been while I was gone, there was a lot of talk about the going back to work. There's many people who do not like the fact that the mayor has decided that she's called on all employees, July 15th, y'all, going back to the office. There's a lot of reasons why. One, she wants to help pump the economy for the city. Downtown, has been struggling financially. And if you have city workers in the office, of course, they're going to use public transportation. They're going to, dine and go to restaurants and things of that nature. they're going to actually participate in the economy, and it's going to really do work to really help the revenue. It's a capitalistic move. There were unions that were against it. There were people who went to the courts, but the courts ruled in the mayor's favor. Basically, she's saying, get your ass back to work. She didn't say that, but that's the sentiment that I get, that she wants asses in seats and go back to work. So I want to say this, and I don't want to be insensitive, because I want to be clear on various fronts about what Philadelphia is trying to be, what we want in a city, and how multiple things have to get done in order for things to coexist. So I hear people who have made these sophisticated arguments about hybrid work models, about better working conditions by working from home and hybrid and all of these different things. All of that is heard, right? The problem is that people have used the pandemic, people have used COVID, people have used various things to try to justify trying to not work and go to work in the office. Here's the issue with that. The issue is that we're no longer in the throes of the pandemic. These city jobs that people have wanted, right, that come with these benefits, come with these, resources and pensions. How do you think that money gets generated, that revenue gets generated, right? You can't have two things at the same time in a city governmental job, right? City government has standards and it funds itself through itself, and that's how it works, right? Now, if you work at Comcast, if you work at corporations, there has been those things. Like my mom, she works for Comcast. She is the ability to have a remote job. She works from home now in her position. She doesn't have to go to a physical office. And in many ways, for the Comcast company, that creates benefits because they don't have to have a bunch of office spaces. They don't have to put people in certain offices and all the costs that come with that, right? The problem is with the city owns properties and buildings that needs to be utilized because these are governmental buildings and they pay bills, they pay lighting bills, maintenance bills, cleaning bills. All of that stuff has to still go into effect. The city buildings cannot get weathered down. Asses have to be physically there. And the issue is that our city bureaucracy is too big. And I've been saying this for a long time, that the issue with Philadelphia is that there's not enough creative jobs in the city, that we should not have people codependent on governmental jobs in the city in order to be employed. But because nobody wanted to get serious about investing in expanding the job economy, which would require more education, more funding for public schools to make Philadelphians more competitive to take on these jobs, we're now in a position where everyone is stuck to working for some city municipal office and department. But the reality is that because people have gotten used to being so hell-bent in working in city government jobs, that in many ways they start to view it as almost like they work in a corporate atmosphere where they can change the climate of their working conditions instantly based off of public opinion. It doesn't work like that in city government, for better and for worse, because city government is hell-bent on maintaining a certain type of structure to guarantee utilities to be maintained because this is their property. See, a cost-effective benefit analysis is that if you was a corporation, right, and you own several buildings, you might actually kill the buildings. And that's what's happened, right? There's a lot of major buildings in Center City that are shutting down and moving out because they have downsized, because they have had hybrid work. Now you see city workers wanting the same thing. If that happens, Center City dies. Newsflash. Have you actually went downtown and seen a lot of those big buildings? They're basically empty, right? A lot of people are moving out of co-working spaces. A lot of these type of offices that were rented by major companies, they're downsizing because all of them can afford to go hybrid. So now, because we're on this culture where everybody's going hybrid, government, like a city like Philadelphia, that's one of the poorest major cities in America, it can't afford to do that. So as much as people will want it to, guess what you'll lose? The city will lose billions of dollars. It will lose millions upon millions of dollars. And it will impact our entire ecosystem, where other things will be shorted on budget. So I need people to understand a lot of the rationale behind this. It isn't because, oh, Mayor Parker wants to be evil Darth Vader and stop everything. No, it's because our city is too damn broke to actually be able to survive that. Because a hybrid model changes everything, right? A hybrid model will change everything. We've done it for so long that literally the city is losing revenue. They did it during the pandemic. They've been doing it for several years, and it's cost the city. And so everybody wants to talk outside their neck. They want to be like, why is Center City so dead? Well, because ain't nobody downtown. Why ain't nobody downtown? Because nobody has a reason to be downtown, because no one is downtown, because nobody has a job downtown, because everybody is at home. Why is the bars closing so early? Why ain't nobody staying open till 2 at night? Because who the fuck is downtown to stay there till 2 a.m.? So I need people to be real. Let's be for real, right? How do we do both? How do we do both? How do we create this thriving center city that's filled with nice restaurants and bars that stay late, that's so lively and popping, but we don't have a workforce that's downtown? How do we do that? And then here's the irony and the hypocrisy, right? Now, for those who are disabled, do not hear me. This is not about folks who are disabled, because I understand that this is very complexing, and I hope that the city can put in provisions that really focus on disabled individuals that have concerns. So that aside, to the rest of these people, the hypocrisy is real. So you want to use the pandemic to say, oh, I can't work, I can't go to the office and work, blah, 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 blah. But then you show your ass up and you at the Eagles game though, but you at the Sixers game though, but you traveling and you can be in person and be everywhere else for everything else. But all of a sudden, when it comes to showing up to the office at work, oh, you can't do that. Like, come on. If you don't want to work at an office in the city and you're able to, and you just want this as a personal point of pleasure and convenience, don't work for a city then. Don't take a city job. Go get a new job. Go work for another corporation. Go work for a nonprofit. Be self-employed. Do that. Listen, I'm self-employed. I work for myself. I work with publications. Y'all know how it is, right? I don't want to work in an office. Never have wanted to work in an office. I did that very, very early in my career. It ain't for me, okay? What did I do? I said, how can I create an environment for myself? If it's that important to you and you really feel like it's impossible, because you did it your entire life. You didn't work in the city, worked in the office, and now the pandemic got you changing your whole mind. I get it, but for the sake of the fiduciary responsibility to maintain this city, give the job to somebody else. Because right now, there are plenty of people, and I'm going to keep it 100, because let's keep it all 100. There are some people who have worked in the city for decades that's sitting on big fat pensions and resources that are very much social retire and let their job go. That's taking up an opportunity from a young person that is fresh out of college that would not mind showing up to work in the office every day. So respectfully, how about you go retire? Because there's a couple of people right now that could retire right now in the city that don't want to keep going. But you know what? Give the job to someone else who wants that job and wants to work and need the job. There's a lot of young people coming out of college. My younger brother is about to graduate from Temple next year. He gonna need a job, and he loves city jobs. Give him the job then. Let him work. He'll take the job then. He'll get his ass up and go to work every day and show up to the office because y'all talking about unemployment rates. Nobody want to work. And if you don't want to work, or I'm just saying, it's just weird because in a time where unemployment is having different types of up and down for certain communities, I'm just trying to be like, unless you got a situation, an extenuating circumstance, I just really don't get it because everybody else has had to navigate going back to work much sooner than city employees. So a lot of people who are working and having to show up to their office at work that's not working for the city is looking at y'all like, well, welcome and come join the fucking club. Be for real. That's all I'm saying. Be for real. It's a lot of complaining. It's a lot of this. But when you got pensions and benefits and resources, a lot of people don't got that. And I'm just saying, when are we going to channel our energy to fight for real issues that involve real folks? Okay. Now, folks, again, with disabilities and things, that's a different conversation. But for a lot of folks that's my age, and not even my age, a couple folks that's actually, hell, ain't that many people my age in the city working these jobs. There's a lot of people that's a little older than me, late 30s, early 40s, complaining about going to work. They don't want to go to the office. Okay. But you got a job though. You making six figures. You getting a nice salary. You getting benefits. You getting city benefits that's taking your kids to pay for your kids to go to school. You work for the city. Your student loans are paid off. Yeah, you know that if you work in a city government job for 10 years, you're eligible to get your student loans expunged. So you getting benefits. Y'all working these city jobs, then got people's loans covered, got in good health benefits, they got everything. And at least you got a good job and you mad because you got to go to the office every day. Get your ass back to work. That's how I feel about it. For folks that can do it, do it. All this complaining, all this whining, get your ass back to work. Because it's real. Because a lot of people right now would do anything to get a city job, to get those benefits, to get that pension, to get those resources, to get their student loans paid off, to keep a job for 10 years. You know how hard it is nowadays to stay at one place for that long? And y'all mad because y'all got to go to the office? Look, the people that clean, that's been keeping that city office clean, the custodial workers that go there and bust their ass every single day to keep that place polished, they wish they didn't have to go to the office, quote unquote, but they do. So I don't want to hear all of that. I really don't personally. I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay. You don't get to do your homework. You don't get to do emails in your drawers. You don't get to be at home and multitask. Okay? Worse things have happened. A lot of y'all was asking what my thoughts are about it. It may be an unpopular opinion, but this is Ernestly speaking. I know it sucks, but then let's talk about solutions then, because I don't like to leave y'all in the dark. My solution would be, let's have a conversation about improving job opportunities so that people do not feel like they have to be hell-bent to a city job to make money. Let's create more jobs. Let's create more opportunities in downtown and bring competitors into the city so that you can go get you another job. If you don't like the way the confines of being a city worker is, then let's create more job opportunities so people don't feel like they have to only have a city job. I mean, we could do that too. But nobody want to do that because people know that some of those groups aren't going to necessarily be union friendly. Oh yeah, that's right. Because this is a union city. So we forget that in the pursuit of trying to have new options, there's also the absence of unions in some of those deals, and nobody wants to do non-union jobs. See, this is what I'm talking about, right? That in so many ways, people have all of these different hangups and demands and requests, but they're also not being realistic about the full scope and the totality of the expectations. That's all I'm saying. Let's be consistent. Let's add it up. Let's do the math. Because there's a lot of hopping scotch around it and finger blaming and scapegoating and blaming the mayor. The mayor's doing her job. The mayor is taking a tough position on this because the mayor also recognizes all of the costs and all of the things. And we about to have what, the FIFA Cup in the next couple of years. It was already a lot with the papal visit. The economic impact of the Pope coming to Philly did not do the thing that people thought it was going to do. You know, it was all this talk about restaurants and dining, and everybody just did not go. There was this mass exodus of people who just did not go. You know, the restaurants did not pop off like people thought. The folks that came spent more time at Wawa and McDonald's. Like, it didn't do what it's supposed to do, but that was also because the infrastructure was not in place. So, lots to consider. That's all. So this week's Ask Ernest, a lot of you all had questions around a particular situation at a particular radio station that I have a show on. We'll be back September 4th, Beyonce's birthday, or September 5th. I think it, let me double check. I don't want to be misquoting nothing, because, you know, I see how y'all get. Let me see. September 5th. Correction. Yep, Thursday, September 5th. Philadelphia City Council Live on, you know, on WRD. 96.1 FM, 900 AM, Progressive Black Talk Media. I'll be back on for a new season of City Council Live. You know, I've been on break because, you know, City Council is not in session right now. But that doesn't stop you all from asking me questions about certain things that have taken place. And, you know, a lot has already been said about that situation, which has nothing to do with me, because I want to make that clear, because people be talking. I can only talk for myself, and that's what I'm going to do. Situation is an unfortunate situation for everybody involved. There's going to be a lot of lessons learned. A lot of journalists need to take some time to reflect. A lot of people who are in the media, specifically in political media, need to reflect on what happened across the end. There's so much here. The White House, the Biden administration, the campaigns, people need to consider everything. I'm a bigger idea person. I can go tit for tat and nitpick about certain people and certain things that people were saying and people throwing shots and having my name in their mouth. I'm not going to do all that. But when I said, and I made the comparison, why I said I feel like I'm the Hillary Clinton in my own circle. My friends say that to me, and you always asking, what did I mean by that? Let me explain what that means. What that means is that when you think about it, right? Hillary Clinton, you know, she ran a race, she did her thing, she minded her business. It is 2024, and Donald Trump still got Hillary's name in his mouth. Republicans still got Hillary's name in their mouth. And at some point, you just got to go, okay, why are we still talking about Hillary? Okay, the emails, the investigations, all that shit, done 8 years ago. Now, why am I in it? She's wondering. And so sometimes because of your presence, right? Your visibility, your notoriety, your all of the things, you will be oftentimes the scapegoat or the reason or the conversation for something that don't have nothing to fucking do with you. And quite frankly, I'm about tired of it. I'm about tired of every time somebody in journalism in this city or politics or whatever is in some shit or something happens, everybody want to ask me, what do I think? And that's fine, right? I guess when you're a leader and you're the president of a Black Journalism Association, people going to ask you questions. I'm not talking about that. But when people choose to create their own stories, we're entitled to our own opinions by our own facts, but create their own narratives and start doing all that with my name, I don't do that. And so I've gotten used to this, that every time something happens to somebody resigns or leaves or something happens, somehow my ass is in the conversation. Oh, accusations and coercions. All this. I'm like sitting in my house like minding my business. Hillary be somewhere hearing that Donald Trump then said her name and something. And she like, why are you talking about me, bro? Like Biden beat your ass in 2020. Why are we talking about me? I've been out the race in politics for 8 years. Can we move on? Why are we talking about me? Sometimes I actually don't like my name being in the middle of shit because I just be like, why? Like cut it out, right? And it's interesting how people will always capitalize off of drama to try to use someone as a deflection. So I think about this, right? Beyonce must know how this feels. I know Beyonce knows how it feels because, yeah, I'm going to make these comparisons to great people because that's how I feel right now. Fuck it. Beyonce, sometimes, I know, I see this happen, and y'all see, and this happens with me in Philly a lot, where people want to do the comparison game. People want to insert what they think I'm feeling about something or feel some type of way. So when Taylor Swift was breaking records with this recent album and doing certain numbers, people just couldn't help but say, well, Beyonce hasn't done that. Or I bet Beyonce somewhere shook. Why are we talking about Beyonce? And why we think we know what Beyonce thinks? And why is it that every time you think of this person, you think of Beyonce? The obsession is real, right? And one could argue that heavy lies the crown, that when you're someone impactful and important, people gonna always have their name in your mouth. And that's true, right? But I need people to understand that and not think there's legitimacy behind why my name come up in conversations. There's just a level of obsession with me. I'm a very popular person. I'm a very known person. And by default, people just gonna always have my name. I'm in bed and somebody is on Reddit somewhere probably talking about me. There's people that out here that I've never met that got something to say about me and won't say it to my face, mind you. Mind you, I hear so much stuff about what people be saying about me. I'd be like, that's interesting because that person never said that to me. I don't even know who that person is. But that's what it's like when you're in the public eye. That's the annoying part of being in the public eye. For me, it's more good than bad because if it was more bad than good, I wouldn't be as public, to be honest. But there's more important impact for me, and I've made more impact in the public eye, and the visibility has been more of a blessing than a burden. But there are those times where I'm just like, damn, why y'all talking about me? Go focus on something. Raise your kids. Raise your children. Donate to a charity. Figure out what the fuck you're doing with your fucking career. Why is everybody worried about my? You would think that they were benefiting off my. Do you make money? Do I hire you? Are you an employee? Are you a contractor for me? I'm just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? But it's just an obsession. And we're in this era where people just have these parasocial relationships and obsessions over people that are very visible. The cult of celebrity is a thing, and it's permeated in everyday life in a weird way. But it's just like having whole breakfast conversations, having whole group chats. Like, I know I'm that bitch, but damn. Like, whole debates, creating whole narratives in their head and running with it. You know, in this particular situation that happened at the station, that situation is a lot, right? But it's just like, why I can't defend my credibility, people. Like, one thing is another. Somebody can make a bad decision, make a mistake, make a poor decision, whatever, right? But you can do that, right? But you can also defend your work and not have to look at it like a beef. People just love to create beefs. People love to create the beefs in their head. Listen, trust and believe. If I'm beefing with somebody, believe you gonna know it's beef. I ain't beefing with nobody who has currently or previously worked at my station. If they beefing with me, that's a beef they have in their head. I don't really beef with people. I really don't. I might disagree with some folks. And I beef with people that want to beef with me if I feel like it's up to my level. But I'm not beefing with no black woman. I'm not beefing with no woman. I'm not beefing with people doing what they do. I not gonna say that, but I was gonna say something, but I was like, I would just say that people will do what they do, and what they do will impact them, and that's their business. And I'm talking about myself. I do what I do, and what I do impacts me, and I keep it moving for me. I just think a hit dog will holler, and I'm talking in general. People will always sense that somebody's out to get them when they're not doing right by said people. I'm speaking in general. May the church say amen. I'm speaking in general. I'm testifying because I'm talking about, I have a lot of thoughts about a lot of things I've been seeing lately. And I'm just saying that a lot of times, and I'm talking metaphorically, but please bear with me. A lot of times when you have been an individual in any situation where you're consistently bad mouthing, dissing, throwing shots at people, when you fall in a situation that's tough on luck, you're going to assume that the people that you did wrong or talk shit about or did wrong is out to get you. But in reality, sometimes you just made a mistake or you just did something bad, and that's just what it is. It ain't no conspiracy to be done. You see what I'm saying? I'm talking about Trump here, right? You know, Trump supporters, they out here thinking somebody from the Democratic Party was one to screw them over, but actually it was somebody in your own party. Ain't nobody worried about you like that, but because you done did people so wrong, now you think those people want to get retribution. Not everybody trying to get retribution. Some people are actually too rich and too successful, too blessed to be stressed to be worried about your ass. Sometimes people just out here living their best life. Sometimes people's success is the revenge. Sometimes they leave it in a higher being's hands. Sometimes they let you get the rope and hang yourself because, you know, the trash can take itself out. Sometimes that can be the case. And again, I'm talking in general. So don't put no fucking words in my mouth, okay? I'm talking in general. I'm just saying. Because we get to a point where everybody is so, we're in this world where everybody got all these suspicions and all this who, what, where, and blah. And at a certain point, you got to be an adult, and you got to sit down, and you got to hold yourself accountable, and you got to own your shit, and you got to sit with your shit, and you got to reflect on your shit. Because one thing about me, all I can do is be accountable for myself. All I can do is speak for myself, and all I can do is be the incredible journalist with integrity and standards that I have. And if my presence intimidates you, that's a personal problem. If me defending my work and speaking on my credibility makes you feel some type of way, that is a personal problem. If I talk about what I don't do and you feel some way about it, that's a personal problem. And we got to start telling people that, y'all, because people will feel like their shit and how they feel becomes your burden. And it's not. It's not. It's not. We got to stop blaming and pointing the fingers. We got to start looking inward, because sometimes the call is in the house. And you see where I'm going with this. You see the theme I'm going with this? It's bigger than one incident in Philadelphia. It's bigger than one incident in the White House. It's bigger than one incident that took place, you know, in Bumblefuck, PA. It's bigger than that. It's time for adults to be adults. It's time for people to be self-accountable for their own actions and own their shit. It's time for grown people to keep other grown people's name out their mouth when ain't shit got nothing to do with them. I can only speak for myself. And I can defend my work and what I do, how I do it. I'm not throwing nobody under the bus. I'm not scapegoating nobody. I'm not lying on nobody. In the words of Kendrick Lamar, don't say a lie about me and I won't say a truth about you. Don't lie on me, because I will say the truth. Because I don't play. When people lie on me, I come back with facts. And my facts be so real that it shuts shit down. Don't lie on me, is what I tell people all the time. Because I will tell the truth. I will state the facts. And listen, I work for myself. I'll flip this motherfucking table and hit it and keep it moving. That's how I am. I keep things 100. I'm not going to lie about anything. On anything. I don't have a reason to. So if you say something about me, put my name in something, first of all, I'll fact check the shit. And then the truth will be worse than any lie you ever said about me. Because the truth will be ugly. The ugly truth is worse than any other lie that anybody can make up. Because you gotta sit with the reality of the shit. See, when you say a lie on somebody and you lie on people and you do whatever like that, you create a situation where it's a fantasy. Most of the time, I don't get upset about the lie a person would say. I'm more disappointed that the misinformation itself is there, but I don't really give a fuck about what the lie is, ironically. It's just the mere fact that the impact of it, the misinformation of it, and what that can cause. That's what gets me. So I want to just say some things in general about how I get down and what I do, since people want to have my name in their mouth, which is, per the course, right? Every lie is a crown, they say. I'm talking for myself and I'm talking in general. Because you all asked me, ask Ernest. There was a lot of questions about particular things that went down. And what I want you all to know, I know Nicki Minaj said this one time. She said, whatever Nicki Minaj spit, Nicki Minaj wrote. And she was making a point about Iggy Azalea not writing her raps. And Nicki was saying that while there's female rappers out here who got ghostwriters and stuff, she was saying she's not a ghostwriter because she's a rapper. I may not agree with Nicki on a lot of things, on some things, but on that, I agree with. Because the redundancy of her lyrics sometimes, that was a Nicki lyric. Anyway, but the point is I'm trying to say is that whatever I say, I wrote. It's from me. It's my shit. And that goes with a lot of things, right? I'm a journalist. I'm a political journalist. I'm also a food journalist. Under my code, under my understanding of work, how I get down, I ain't talking about nobody else. When I interview important people, politicians, public figures, whomever, the questions I ask are my questions. Period. They're mine. People will try to tell you what to say. They'll try to put words in your mouth. They'll try to, feed you talking points, all the things. They can do all that. But at the end of the day, when you listen to an interview I do on any radio station, or even on this podcast, please understand that those are my questions. Questions that I choose to ask. Questions that I think about. And that's what makes a great interview, in my opinion. That's it. That's it. I'm transparent with my team. I'm transparent with people I work with, what I do. I have no shame in my process. I don't have to do anything any type of way. Journalism is about transparency. It's about collaboration. It's about communication. You all look at me when I write these articles and you go, how you get to say that? How you can do that? Let me tell you my process. When I write an article, a big article, I just had a piece that just came out in Philly Mag. Y'all read about the Biden campaign and Trump and how the Philadelphia campaign was doing. A big old story. I did. It's in the July issue. So, pick up that issue. It's in stores right now. Read from your faith. When I wrote that piece, I did several interviews, multiple interviews. All those questions were my questions. They gave their responses. I included the piece. When I write a long form piece for a publication, anybody, it goes through editors. They fact check. They verify the information. They do all of that. I provide my sources. I'm clear about my process, and everything goes to the green light and it goes out to the public. So when you read an Ernest Owens article at any publication, understand that there has been people who have read it, legaled it. I have my own lawyer, but sometimes the publication I work at, they got lawyers. Everything gets looked at, everything gets edited, everything gets revised. Like there's no random shit that falls from the sky. Which is why you will notice that my articles over the years, you don't get no massive corrections, no slashing of articles, no one deleting and taking my articles off the internet. You don't see none of that shit because multiple people have a role in making sure it's created in a way that reflects my voice and represents the issue in an accurate, transparent way. That's how I work. I can't talk about how other people work. Other people got their own processes. And when you all got in my DMs and asked Ernest about my work process, trying to understand, because you heard things in the streets about how other folks got down and you thought that there was conflation, that perhaps I get down that same way. I want to be clear, speaking for myself, because I'm no one's spokesperson, but I am the spokesperson of Ernest Mini Empire LLC and Ernest Owens. I am the current spokesperson for Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. I can speak on behalf of those two entities and myself. But outside of that, I don't speak for anybody else. I can't talk about what other people's process is. I can speak for myself and what I do. And I can also stand up and defend people I've worked with that I also know do it the same way. Hope that answers your questions. Hope that I'm crystal clear, because I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm also not going to be confusing or not transparent about where I stand and where I'm going and what I mean and what I do. And sometimes you have to say it on a podcast. You got to speak it. And that's why I love this podcast, because I get a platform to articulate. Because a lot of times the tweets, the post, and this, that, people will twist your words. Cut that out. Because we're at a very important inflection point. And I'm seeing this across Black media. I'm seeing this across our time. This is a very important election. And the Black vote in general is important. Every vote is important. But we are in an interesting time right now where a lot of people are looking at us. We're on the world stage. And a lot of people are looking to trip us up, to distract us, to divide us, to make it about them when it's about us. And we got to get focused on us. Because all of these personal ego trips that folks be on and all these finger pointing and all, it ain't getting us no closer to a victory in November. And so I'm at a point where when it comes to this work, to this journalism work, this election coverage, this politics, it's a different type of conversation. And for those who are interested and participating in this industry, because a young person asked me for some advice on this, and I want this, I hope this young person is listening, but other people. Always, and I want to say this as clear as possible. Always remember that in the work of media and journalism, the information is more important than anything else. It's not about you, your personal passions, your ambitions. It's not about any of that. The information and the work is the most important thing in the business. The respect you get is based off of the work you produce. You can be nice, you can be cute, you can be this, you can be that, you can be all those things. But if the work does not align, right, with whatever else you're doing, then there becomes a muddle. And I'm talking for myself, because in this business, there's been many people that have tried to use me and make me things that I was not feeling comfortable being. Wanted me to do certain things, talk a certain way, cover certain things, present a certain way, thinking that would be good for my career. I had to be very clear that I was very much more invested in the work more than all these other optics and other distractions. Because when you get caught up in all these other things and you're not focused on your work in the same way, that's when problems arise. I went through those growing pains. People was trying to make me, you're like a Wendy Williams, but a guy. I don't want to be Wendy Williams. And no shade to Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams is Wendy Williams, okay? But that's not who I'm trying to be. That's not who I am. You see a gay guy who got some personality, some flair, speaking truth, and you get Wendy Williams? Really? Like, is that the best we got? There's so many other voices. I'm thinking about people like Chuck Stone, Asa Moore, Reginald Bryant, Mary Mason. I'm thinking about folks who've done this work and had personality, but also was focused on the community. If you don't know who those people are, who I just named, I encourage you to Google them. I encourage you to look them up. I encourage you to hear their stories. They're no longer with us. Most of them, they're no longer with us. They're no longer living, but they are legends. There are people who made very important contributions as Black journalists to the field, and they also had lots of personality and spunk and power and influence. And so it's very important to be mindful about understanding what people's goals are. People look at me and they think, oh, you want to be the next this, you want to be next that. Oh, you're going to be next Don Lemon. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No. And there's no shade with Don Lemon. I don't got an issue with Don Lemon. But I'm just like, we just got to respect the individuality and the ingenuity of people. And again, not crossing these dots of conflation. So much conflation. Oh, this person wants to be this, or I think they want. No, some people just want to be them. And some people are not threatened by other people's success. I'm in competition with myself. I'm not in competition with nobody else. Somebody get interviewed with the president, the vice president, whomever, good for them. Like, it's never this, people want rivalry so bad. People just love drama with Black folks. And unfortunately, there are some Black people that like to feed into the drama to make themselves relevant. And you can't use my name to make yourself relevant. I don't care who you are. People talk about you more because of my name than yours. That's sad. I would encourage you to build a reputation and identity that does not placate off of the presence of my fucking name. Good luck and Godspeed. And I'm done on that topic. I'm being real. Because it's been 2 weeks. And as you can imagine, it's been a very interesting 2 weeks. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I told y'all before, the first 48 hours of a situation is always going to be heated and crazy. But then as time progresses, there's always new things. There's always a new situation and a new thing that takes people's attention off things. And people move the fuck on. And I must say, I'm very grateful. This is the one thing I say about this day and age. Y'all attention spans are so thin. And that can be sometimes frustrating, but I ain't gonna hold you. Sometimes it's a good thing because I'd be like, forget about this and move on. Don't harp on this, y'all. Please take it in, learn lessons, and move the fuck on, because it's like your 15 minutes of fame that people think they're gonna get from a situation, whatever the situation is, it's very clear that there's bigger things, right? There's bigger things, bigger than any moment. And I'm very much, as a person who's had moments, right? Moments that were international and national, right? I know the cycle now. It's a hamster wheel effect. You go through what you go through. Look, last year, I was banned from NABJ for 5 years. Y'all already know. If you don't know, there's a good episode, bonus episode that came out last year. Look, I went through that. That shit was crazy. That shit was fucking bananas. And then time moves on and you heal and you get better, right? Last year, they created an NABJ Philly chapter. Everybody was like, ooh, what's going to happen to PABJ? Ooh, all that happened for a couple of days. And then look what the fuck happened. NABJ Philly who? Where? PABJ still out here. 50th anniversary coming up in November. I see y'all there, okay? Just had me a professional awards. Still got 6 figures in the bank. Over 400 members. That's what we doing. So you get to a point where you just realize through life, and this is some advice for anybody, right? You're going through what you're going through. It always get back on track, because most people don't give a fuck beyond 48 hours. Most people don't give a fuck after 48 hours. Most people move on. And that's what you got to do. You got to figure out a way that for you might think it's your worst day because a lot of attention. And I've been in situations throughout my life and my career where it was like the first moment it happened, the first 48 hours, the shit was just like, oh my God, it's never going to end. You just feel helpless and hopeless. And then all of a sudden shit gets better and you're just like, okay. And so that's my advice to any person, any crisis. Don't go out talking crazy. Think before you post. Think before you speak. Think before you speak on other people's name. and just take a moment to breathe and chill and let all of the processes be what they are and let stuff ride out. Because if you do it the wrong way, you can pretty much create a situation where you burn bridges with people and you burn them. And it may be bridges that you might have needed to get across the other side. But because you were so in your feelings or whatever, you could create a situation that you can't come back from. Just some food for thought. So moving along. So with movies, okay, I saw the new Tyler Perry movie. At this point, I just watch it. I just keep it. I mean, it's it's a cultural thing. He makes bad movies, and we're all gonna watch them, and we're all gonna talk about how bad they are. It's just a thing. It's a pastime now. It's like my guilty pleasure, not my ultimate guilty pleasure, but it's like a little kink. It's like want to find a way to distract yourself from bullshit. Go watch a bad Tyler Perry movie, and then you're like you realize it can't get no worse than that, right? So I saw Divorce in the Black, and I had some thoughts. Yes, the first, 7 minutes of that film is probably some of the most ridiculous, what the fuck moments in cinematic history in recent years, okay? I'm not going to tell what happens. If you want to see it on Amazon Prime, you can. Tyler Perry making millions of dollars off of them first 8 minutes of bullshit. It's an interesting beginning. But let me just say this, what's so interesting about this film. It's pretty boring. I mean, outside of that shocker of a film, like that shocking beginning that had me gagged and gooped, it's pretty much boring. Like I didn't find it really. I mean, Tyler Perry has had bad movies, but this was a bad, boring movie. Like Mia Coppola, whatever, with Kelly Rowland was a bad film, but there was something that kept you want to watch the dumbness of it. Like, I would rather watch Tubi. I think Tubi has now outdone Tyler Perry. Like Tubi movies, they're bad movies too, cinematically, but they do have enough shock and awe that keeps you going from beginning to end. Tyler, I feel like, has gotten flat, where it feels like he's trying to take himself seriously to a certain extent that it's now killed the whole purpose of why people watch the movie. Like, I watched the movie and I just was kind of like, it's boring. I was bored. Megan Good was not really that believable. Corey Hardick, who's Tia Mowry's ex-husband, I mean, he's a cute bad guy, but he just was like, seen this already. I mean, it's just so redundant. It's so, like, I wouldn't even be giving you a spoiler at this point with the film. It's the same film. It's the, beautiful, intelligent Black woman, damsel in distress in a very hard, horrific, violent, abusive relationship with a Black man. She has to go back home to her family's house and be reminded of good Christian values. And then she has to see this cute boy from down yonder who's kind of basic but really attractive. And she realizes that life would be so much better with him. And she has to figure out how to leave the bad husband she has to get with the man she wants, but it's going to end in death or violence or some type of problem, and somehow the church comes back. Like, this is the typical Tyler Perry film model. He does it every damn time. And so there's no spoiler alert here, y'all, because pretty much it's every Tyler Perry movie. But for whatever reason, this was just fucking flat. And I think it's gotten flat because it's gotten predictable. So I honestly feel like I was just bored. I was like, well, at least Medea films, there's going to be a sledgehammer and there's going to be some furniture getting ripped and you're going to see somebody come out with a gun and shoot in the crowd. Like, at least with Medea films, even though they were bad, I mean, at least, there was something to keep you awake. I just found myself just bored. And you know what it was? Is that the actors were so good. Let me clarify. They were not good actors. I mean, the crazy part is that what made the movie really bad was that the actors in the film, Megan Good, Debbie Morgan, who's a legend, Richard Lawson, who is Tina Knowles' ex-husband, that's Beyonce's mother, That's her ex-husband, which was technically Beyonce's ex-stepfather. They recently got divorced. Now that's Bianca Lawson, who I talk about all the time. That's Bianca Lawson's father. Y'all know Bianca Lawson. She was on Queen Sugar. She's in Save the Last Dance. She's in her 40s, but she looks like she's in her mid-20s. That beautiful woman. So so the film had a lot of more relevant actors that we know, right? The problem is that I think they were actually trying to take the roles seriously, but the script was so bad that it just felt flat. Like they were really trying to act, but the screenplay and the directing was so bad that they just even looked worse, and that's why the film sucked. Like in other Tyler Perry movies, the actors are not like known actors. They don't really seem to take their performances seriously, which also allows it to be funnier because no one's really taking it seriously, but they're doing it anyway, and so you can it can be somewhat redeeming. But there was like nothing redeeming about this film because everybody was actually trying to take the role seriously. And also, they're doing that with a bad script, so it doesn't help. And now, there's only one time in Tyler Perry's cinematic history where there was a bad film. The script was bad, but the film was good because the actors were able to save it. And that is The Family That Prays. The screenplay for that film is not good, right? The story plot line is a little weird. But because the actors can act really well, and they found but these are like legendary actors. Let's be clear. Like, I'm sorry, Richard Lawson is often on soap operas. Megan Good, let's be for real. Corey Hardick, he's a better actor elsewhere, but he's not that good of an actor. He's not a great actor, So like they really couldn't save this film even if they wanted to. But when you got legends like Kathy Bates and Alfre Woodard and Sanaa Lathan and Taraji P. Henson in a film like that, okay, they can save a film because they know how to rewrite and remove. And so their acting was stellar and the film was a lot better because they was able to save it. But you ain't got no real big savers in this film. Debbie Morgan is an acting legend, but she always plays the same person. I feel like I'm always seeing her play the mother or the mother with a daughter who's been, she's a type A cast person at this point in her career, which is unfortunate because she was incredible in Devil's Bayou. Megan Good was in Devil's Bayou with Journey Smollett, and all of them acted phenomenal. But here we are, right? So here's the other caveat. Everyone's like, well, Corey Hardick said that was the most money he's ever been paid to act in a film or whatnot. He got paid some good money. And Tyler Perry has a lot of good money. But that's the other hard part about it, is that the reason why Tyler Perry movies are bad in the way that he continues to thrive is an indictment on how racist Hollywood is, right? Because Hollywood will not hire these black actors and give them better roles and opportunities. Like Hollywood overall does not allow for other good black directors like a Ava DuVernay, like a Spike Lee, like others like Barry Jenkins, who's a fellow fraternity brother. He's a member of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Woo, woo. These directors don't get enough budgets to be able to do bigger films. Like you can count your fingers how many black directors gotten to direct a film with a budget that exceeds over 100 million. I mean, you think about, Ryan Coogler with Black Panther. You don't see that many directors that get those opportunities. Like Ryan Coogler is an exception, right? But a lot of these other black directors don't get the budgets and the resources and means to really come up with great films, right? Great ideas, but get them funded by studios. So then Tyler Perry, because of the same racism in the Hollywood industry, Tyler Perry has made enough money where he can fund his studio, fund his stuff, and be able to make his own badass movies and get his own distribution deals. In one sense, that's a good thing. The problem is the content and material is horrible. And so I just feel like, all of this is a combination of racism in Hollywood, because if we had more black directors who have their films greenlit, then you would have better options, better films, better opportunities, better budgets, so that those black directors could pay a Megan Good a better salary, could pay a Corey Hardick a better salary that can allow him to not feel like the only acting opportunity that's going to pay him is a Tyler Perry film. Like, let's be real about it. There's a reason why Cecily Tyson was in a Tyler Perry film. Honestly, no shade. if Hollywood paid black actors better, a lot of them would not be doing Tyler Perry films. I feel like we gotta be real. Like Tyler Perry is like, I don't want to make that metaphor, but it's like McDonald's, right? It's like, because he provides it so much and people eat it so much doesn't mean it's good for you. But because he's providing good work, benefits, and good things and good pay, actors are tempted to do, especially black actors, where, you know what's sad is that this movie might be the biggest, most visible role that Corey Hardwick has had. He's a good actor. He's been in, shows like All American, like the spinoff All American Homecoming. And he's a good actor in that show with Taye Diggs. But now they're not going to have, All American Homecoming. They're not going to have that anymore. So now this brother got to go out here and do Tyler Perry films. What are we doing to support black actors and directors to make sure they don't have to do Tyler Perry films to keep the lights on? Like I said, this is an indictment on Hollywood and the industry. Because at this point, I'm not asking Tyler Perry to be better. He ain't going to be better. He makes money off of the ludicrousness of his films. He makes money off of this shit. He's not going to stop doing what he do. He knows what it is. He's gotten plenty honorary awards for the bullshit. So at this point, Tyler Perry has made a business model that succeeds him. What we got to do as a society, if we really want to support black actors and directors, we really have to. Because let's be real, as much as he hires black actors, he's not hiring that many black writers or black directors. Because if he owns a studio, why can't he just say, you know what? This is my studio, but I'm going to recruit black directors and I'm going to give them money. And I'm going to give screenplay writers money to make better movies than I'm fucking making. Do that, Tyler. Give your studios more respect. Make Tyler Perry Studios a place where black directors can make better films. Screenplay writers can write better screenplays. Your name is going to be on the credits as the studio. Be a producer. But give other people the opportunity. Why, I don't know. He can do what he wants, right? But I just imagine, like, if you're a businessman, wouldn't it be, but when you're a cheap businessman, he's a cheap businessman. That's why. Because I'm just thinking to myself, like, if I was in his shoes, I would be like, okay, I wouldn't write as bad films, but I would be trying to pass the mic and grow the pot and really put some new filmmakers on. Like, you could do a lot and let them give these people the budget and give them the opportunity. Oprah did that. That's what Oprah did. Oprah did Harpo Studios. That's what Oprah did. Oprah amplified other people, including Tyler Perry's ass. Had a whole network and gave other people a platform. Tyler Perry is in a position where he could do the same. He doesn't. And that's why I just can't get down with his overall business model, because it's so self-indulgent, so much navel-gazing. It's just so, yeah. That's how I feel about it. But speaking about other good news, better news, Gladiator 2 trailer came out, y'all. I'm here for it. I'm ready to see Denzel Washington, y'all. The streets are talking. Denzel Washington, Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars. I see it coming, y'all. I see it. I see another Denzel Washington nomination, y'all. Best Supporting Actor, Gladiator 2. I'm saying it now. I don't know about the win, but I can see a nomination. It's given Alonzo at the Coliseum. And if you get that joke, kudos to you. Okay, if you don't get the joke, I'm going to tell you the joke because white people were scratching their head. So Alonzo is the character from Training Day, from the 2001 film Training Day with Ethan Hawke, where he won the Oscar for Best Actor. That character was real sinister and a little shady, but real smooth with a nice gray cut and a nice fade. Denzel was looking real cute, real good. He aged well. Well, I looked at this film, and Denzel is basically playing Alonzo, but not as sinister, not as violent, as verbal. But people say it feels like Denzel's playing himself. Denzel can play whatever the fuck he wants, because he's been every other character. I like Denzel when he plays himself slightly, okay? So Denzel didn't look good. He's slim for this particular role, and I'm enjoying it. The Brooklyn accent, not Brooklyn accent, he's from Mount Vernon, but that New York accent coming in, it's just, I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. I am here for Denzel. I am ready. Okay? Gladiator 2, I'm watching it for Denzel. It's coming out the same day as Wicked Part 1. So I am over the moon. It is going to be like Barbie, what it was a Barbieheimer, Oppen Barbie, whatever. It's going to be that all over again. You're going to see Barbie and you're going to see Oppenheimer. You're going to see Gladiator 2 and you're going to see Wicked Part 1 on the same day. See y'all at the theaters later this year. It's going down. So with music, so many things. I don't know who to start with. I'm going to start with Katy Perry. Katy Perry got a new single out. It's a woman's world, whatever it's called. It's flopping. It should flop. The song is horrible. First of all, outside of the song just being horrible, let me just talk about the actual song itself before I get into the politics. The song is just so repetitive. It's so redundant. It sounds like something, I have to say it. It sounds like a song. It sounds like something off of Chromatica from Gaga, except not with the cringy lyrics, but the sound. It sounds dated. The way that pop music is going and the direction is going, I feel like Katy Perry has now become a relic of yesteryear. Like Katy Perry is a relic of the early 2010s. We're now coming into the mid 2020s. We don't want to hear this. This is not the song. The video, boring, corny, attention seeking, just not the right time. And the new album is coming out in September. So she's going to have this long, drawn out rollout for this album that nobody wants to hear. It's going to flop. This single is a miss. We don't want Katy Perry music anymore. We're over Katy Perry. Katy Perry, to me, has been done since Prism. She released another album after that called, I think, Smile or something. Nobody wants this music. Nobody wants this music. And it's people's right. But also, the thing that really ruined this for me was when I found out that Dr. Luke, who had the accusations from Kesha, that Dr. Luke was producing this song. And every time Katy wants to talk about this song, she tries to ignore the Dr. Luke concerns. I'm sorry, it's 2024. We're not doing this. And so a lot of her fans are just completely turned off. And a lot of people are just over Dr. Luke, even though he continues to do music to this day. So, yeah. So Eminem has a new album. I didn't listen to it. I just looked at reviews. I'm over Eminem, y'all. I think Slim Shady, the death of Slim Shady, whatever he's talking about. I mean, the album will probably chart at #1 on Billboard. It will probably defeat Taylor Swift's run. She's had a long run, but I think at this point, she's now hit her career best. Her album has 12 consecutive weeks at #1. Thus far she did it. It's career best, 12 week at #1 on the Billboard charts, which is a phenomenal achievement. I don't know if next week she's going to be able to have that moment or recover that moment. I don't know if she's going to be able to do it because Eminem looks like he's coming for it, and he'll get it. And who knows? She might rebound the next week. Who knows? But 12 consecutive weeks at #1 is nothing to sneeze at. That's officially three months on the charts. 3 consecutive, that's 3 months. The sales went up by 43%. It's a 12th consecutive week. She now beats 1989 and Fearless, who had 11 weeks at #1. This is now her longest running #1 album of all time. There's only 2 other albums that have spent at least their first 12 weeks at #1. That was Morgan Wallen's One Thing at a Time, which did its first 12 weeks at #1. Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life did its first 13 weeks at #1. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So if she surpasses, I mean, at this point, I don't think she's going to stop Stevie Wonder because Eminem's coming. So she's going to be tied with Morgan Wallen, who's the guy who said the N-word, that country singer. But she is the only woman to spend her first 12 weeks at number one. She has now surpassed Whitney Houston's album Whitney. So she is now the only woman to have an album spend its first 12 weeks at number one. It's obvious that she clearly wants to try to get another album of the year win at the Grammys. Because the album is not sonically good, it's not going to win, I don't think. I don't think it's going to win. But its popularity, based on the way that she's been jiggering up, I think there's been a lot of controversy in the industry about the way she's been getting number one, that I think the industry's over it. But she's definitely going to most likely get a nomination for Album of the Year, unfortunately, because of how successful the album is. That's her strategy. She's like, I won't put out good music as much, but if I make it record-breaking, it's almost like you can't deny it. So we'll see. But this to say, Eminem's album is very forgettable. I mean, after the Meg Thee Stallion reference of her being shot in his first lead single called Houdini, which debuted at number 2 on the charts and kind of fell off ever since then, it's just been a lot of, it's just the same playbook. So that's that. As far as TV goes, I watched the Ghost mid-season finale, which I thought the other episode was, but the previous one is now on a break until the fall, but it's very good. I can't complain about it. I know a lot of y'all been wanting me to watch other TV shows. Honestly, after The Bear disappointed me, which a lot of y'all been messaging me, telling me, thanks for the heads up, Ernest. Y'all been like, thanks for the heads up about The Bear, because a lot of y'all were like, getting a little excited, and I kind of didn't want to give y'all the spoiler, but a lot of y'all are also like, yeah, the Bear was ass. But I want to remind you all that when it gets these nominations for the Emmys, that's going to be for season 2, not season 3. And so as much as I would like Abbott, but I don't know, I feel like maybe Emmy voters might not give it I think this backfired for them, because I think people are going to come in with their exhaustion of The Bear in general, that they might show love to Abbott, and the pivot might be in Abbott's benefit. We don't know yet. So anything can happen. But honestly, I think Abbott Elementary should get Best Comedy. I really do. I really wanted to, because everybody got real funny with them because The Bear came out and just ran to The Bear and just denied my little show. But you know what? Justice for Abbott Elementary. I hope it wins. And so this week is going to be interesting. I'm going to be doing some traveling. I got a really cool trip I'm doing, and I'm going to tell y'all more about it. But I'll be in Delaware. I'll be in Delaware. I'll be in New Jersey. I'll be in New Jersey. Yes. I'll be in Ashbury Park, and I'll be in Wilmington. Mr. Johnson and I are going to do a romantic little weekend getaway situation. We're going to be in 2 different hot hotels. We're going to be in 2 different hotels. We're going to be dining in two like fun restaurants that we've never been to. And we're going to have a really good time. So I'm looking forward to some lovely relaxation. I told y'all I was going to be out on the road this summer, really taking advantage of these mini vacations, and looking forward to Delaware. Love me a good time. I always love a good time in Delaware. People always talk about Delaware, maybe because I know where the good restaurants are in Delaware, and I can't wait to tell you all about them. But I'm looking forward to Delaware. I'm looking forward to Ashbury Park. Never been. There's some exciting restaurants we're going to go to. And I got to be real with y'all. No recommendations. Trust me. I take a lot of time making recommendations for you all as a food critic, as a restaurant journalist, whatever, food writer, all that. I know where the spots are. I talk to locals. I do a lot of research. I typically know. And then what's funny is when I go to the city and go to certain places, people be like, "Oh, I didn't know you knew about that," or "Oh, wow." Trust me, I do a lot of extensive research before I go to anybody's city. So Ashbury Park, I promise you that the restaurant that we're going to go to is one of the best. And we're at a really nice resort, and it's going to be really fun. So stay tuned for all of that. But what a season 7 premiere this was. I miss you all. I know this episode is long, but y'all already know what it is. I gave y'all a longer episode for the finale, and that held y'all over. And y'all, listen, after I saw all them hundreds of downloads and listens to, I said, oh, y'all here with the shits. Because this shit is meant to be stretched if you want to. Or you can listen to one setting, or whatever you want to do. But it's enough to hold you over until next week. So as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.